Unmute us for just 1 second. Okay, unmuted. Now, folks here in the live stream can hear us. We're just about ready to start. A little bit behind schedule, but yeah, I don't know.
Just some technical issues.
Yeah. Looks like it's time for a new soundboard for Dark Tower Palaver Studios.
We could have started on time. You just wouldn't have been able to hear a single thing I was saying. So,
how much of a downside would that be?
You have to ask yourself that.
Especially as we get into the stand, and you're gonna sit here and impugn my boy.
I'm not gonna talk shit about anyone. All right. If anyone's gonna have to be cut off for bad mouthing someone, it's gonna be you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't trust you with the upholding the honor of flags. So so we'll go ahead and get started with the show, and yeah, it should be a fun one. Let's go ahead and mute us real quick, which is going to be different because we're on different channels than normal, and then listen to the intro, and we'll get started.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland to the Dark Tower came.
We are quartet, one from many. The palaver begin.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's Magnum Opus, the Dark Tower series. My name is Tad.
And I'm Peter.
And we're here for a special episode, one that I guess we told you guys about last time, so it shouldn't be too much of a shock, but we're here for kind of the first time that we're doing the Unfound Door as a conjoined effort, and also as kind of one that's, rather than being just a sideshow, it's being part of, I guess, like the main show. Basically what we're at is like there's been so little like news and stuff with the roundtables that we thought about just looping in the Unfound Door episodes as regular episodes, especially because I don't know, especially something like The Stand. There's a lot of cool, like, I feel like there's more connection than a lot of stuff, but like, I don't know, we wanted to expand into the larger King universe a little bit.
It's definitely number 1 or 2 with linkage to the Dark Tower, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I think that like it'd be fun to explore. I mean, of course, this is always going to be a Dark Tower show, so it's always going to be from the purview of Dark Tower fans and seeing how things connect, which was always my idea for the Unfound Door episodes anyway. So yeah, kind of excited for that. So let's get into some of the intro stuff first, and then got a little bit of a announcement after that, and then we'll get into the stand. I'm pretty fresh off my 2018 read.
Both of us are.
Yeah, Peter's a little bit further back, but not too bad. Because you were ahead of me on. I think you started sometime before, and then I think I stalled out just because I had some podcasts that were really that I was listening to for whatever reason that slowed me down for a bit. And sometimes I drag out the stand just for the sake of dragging it out further. And I don't think you did that. You pretty much just zip right through it.
No, it's one of those ones that once I started, I'm done. I'm just I go hard, I go fast, I go through it, and it's one of those ones that it's like give me more, give me all of it. I love.
Yeah, I'm usually that way, but like I said, because I was thinking about it because I was like, how did I stall out on this for like a couple weeks where I stopped listening to the stand, and I really thought about it. I'm like, I had some other stuff to listen to, but like usually that doesn't stop me from listening to audiobooks, and it really just came to me. I'm like, maybe I'm just extending it out. I remember with book 7 of the Dark Tower series, I was probably, as much as I wanted to see it end, I think I really did slow myself down just to extend out how much longer I was with the characters and stuff. So maybe it was the same thing. It just kind of like extending it out to enjoy it more. And I don't know. And it's funny because like I almost wish I would have done it further because ever since then, like I've kind of held off on getting another audiobook because I didn't want to pollute my mind too much with new stuff to like, not that I wouldn't have this one memorized anyway. But it's been funny because now I'm just like in a spot where I'm like, man, none of my podcasts are really reaching at me. I'm like, man, I wish I had like the stand to listen to right now. So yeah, it's been fun.
Perfect time to pick up a new King book and read through it, one that you haven't before.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the plan. I just wanted to hold off on that, at least until we had done this episode for the stand.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll jump into something else for sure. Pet Cemetery's very tempting, but I think I'm going to go and buy that collection that has Rage in it and read that to kind of stay a little bit close to in line with things. But it's I don't know. I love reading new King for sure, and it'll be fun to read Rage. And because I've read Pet Cemetery, I've never listened to it though, because the new release of the audiobook is fairly new, so I'll be interested to go through that again. It's been a long time since I've read Pet Cemetery.
Earlier this year, and it's got Dexter reading it, which is just phenomenal.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. But I'll probably hold off on it and go back to Rage and do that one first because it'll be one that I haven't read before for obvious reasons. So it's a little bit tougher to find than a lot of other stuff out there. So let's go ahead and jump into the intros real quick. First of all, warning about spoilers. Even though we're going to be talking about the stand, we want to throw out the blanket warning for Dark Tower series as well. If you haven't finished Dark Tower series, you may want to hold off because we very well may still spoil things from Dark Tower series.
We'll definitely be spoiling things for Dark Tower series, but we also want to warn we are spoiling the stand.
Right? Yeah, we are spoiling the stand as well. Yes, so
I want that out there in black and white that we are going to be talking about everything in the stand.
Yeah, and if you haven't got around to reading it yet, honestly, like as one that reads it basically annually, I could tell you that like this story isn't about twists and turns in the story. Like even though there are those things there, that is not the main attraction of this book. This book is all about some of the best characters that King's ever written. This is about following them on their journey. This is about, for me, it's always like going back and revisiting these old friends.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Dark Tower in that way. Dark Tower is the same way. I would say that by and large, like if somebody had like the major points of Dark Tower spoiled, do you think they still would not enjoy the books? I tend to think that they would still enjoy them because it's the characters about it's the moments. Even if you have some spoiler about something like like Eddie owning Blaine or things like that.
I think when you get into like spoilers for like plot points, not so much, except if you went into like maybe what happens with the quartet, Eddie, Jake's death, Susanna leaving Roland, the ending with Roland getting sent back to the desert. I think that's where you could ruin the Dark Tower for someone before you start, because it's like, hey, it's a story of like a quest, like kind of like Lord of the Rings, but hey, spoiler alert, Eddie dies. He gets shot in the head in book 7 right before they get to the Dark Tower, and it's like, oh well, fuck you, I'm not going to read it then, kind of thing.
Yeah,
I think that one is a little bit different than the stand. The stand, if you start off with, hey, it's a super flu and everyone dies except for like 1% of the population.
Yeah.
And then that 1% gets split into between two fractions between basically good and evil kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then they have to have a clash. I think it's a little bit easier to talk about specifics with the Stand.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot more to the individual characters, like you said. And there is, I think the big thing is there's more characters.
Yeah.
Going the distance.
Yeah.
Of the book. Versus like if you look at the Dark Tower series through 7 books, you got 5.
Yeah, it's a pretty tight group.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably put Callahan in there, even though he's not in it for a long period. He's still, I'd say, probably one of the most important characters that's not in the quartet itself, right? Well, I guess he kind of is.
They technically do say that he is part of the quartet. So I mean,
yeah.
If you look at the maybe the extended, he's not, one of the family, but maybe he's the uncle kind of thing, like the extended quartet.
But I even feel, even outside of like just this conversation, I feel like in my mind and heart, I put Callahan at a far higher perspective than any other character that may wink in and out of the story throughout it. I feel like he's way more important. You spend maybe just as much time on his backstory as you do with, like, say, Eddie. You know what I mean? Like with the stuff that we've been through in our book club with book 2 with Eddie. You get just as much backstory for Callahan. Maybe he's not in the story real time as long as Eddie, but you get just as much like building towards him as you do with Eddie.
To be fair, there's only 2 characters in the entire Dark Tower series that gets a book dedicated to their backstory: Roland and Father Callahan.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I would say like Roland is obviously the most with book 4.
Mm-hmm.
But like I would say that like Jake and Eddie and Susanna, I think all of them are about on the same level of like how much backstory you get throughout the series. And I'd say with that whole side part where he goes through and tells his story, including a lot more than Salem's Lot actually gave us, I'd say that's just as much as them. That's why I think that's why I always hold him in higher importance maybe than
the big thing is that his backstory doesn't even really go into Salem's Lot. It's like, oh, I got bit by a vampire here in Salem's Lot, and then here, let me tell you my story about after,
which is the biggest part of the story.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying is like if you look at like their backstory only, Roland's got book 4, but if you want Callahan's backstory aside from the stuff that's told in Wolves of the Kala, you have Salem's Lot to go read as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So that's kind of our spoiler warning. We will be spoiling the Stand. We will be spoiling the Dark Tower series. So if you haven't finished those, and with the Stand, since it isn't really in our normal purview, if you haven't read it, you may not want to listen to this episode. But if you're maybe on the fence about wanting to read it, maybe listen to this episode. It might inspire you to go and take the plunge and read it.
Maybe listen to the first 20 minutes or the first 30 minutes and see if you want to take the plunge. We're not necessarily going to go in order, like talking through the book, but if something catches your ears, and by all means, it's a phenomenal book. Top 5 outside of Dark Tower, individual works of Stephen King. Top 5.
It's number 1.
Yes, it's number 1 for you.
It's number 1. Yeah,
it's easily top 3 for me. It's a coin toss for me between Carrie, It, and the Stand.
I knew you were going to have It in there.
It's basically how I feel that moment when you asked me that question, because it just I still Carrie is still one of the only books in the history of Peter that I've sat down and read multiple times in one go.
Yeah, it's
not just one time when I first bought it. I've done it multiple times where I'm just like, okay, 200 and something pages, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. For me it's number 1. The Dark Tower series is awesome and I love it as a group. But I have a hard time taking any of the individual books and looking at them in a unique fashion as a singular book and ranking it very high, because I feel like so much of the series depends on the rest of the series. Like it's an entity, and to take away one part of it and then say judge this against like It or The Stand or any of these other books, like I feel it's kind of unfair. And even like book 4, which is my favorite of the Dark Tower series, I feel like if you culled everything else away, if you remove all the other books and all Stephen King wrote was book 4, I don't think it would rank that high. It'd be awesome, but like think about if you'd lost all that backstory on Roland that you had up to that point from the first 3 books. Imagine if you like don't see his resolution with the tower. Like I just think that it would kind of like lose a lot of the magic of it. A lot of the magic it has is how much it's attached to the rest of the series. So I tend to not rank the Dark Tower books individually, just out of fairness to them and to other books, but that's just me for sure.
And that's how we've always treated it since we started Dark Tower. Of sequels, or Doctor Sleep, for instance, is a sequel of The Shining. but it still feels like a kind of a standalone. It was written 30 years apart from the original.
Yeah.
Even the ones like I'm blanking on the name of it, but it's like Desperation and Desperado or something like that. There's a couple of them that are linked. They have similar characters or something like that. One of them's in Castle Rock, Sheriff.
Oh yeah, he's been in a number of them.
Yeah.
Plus you have like the Bill Hodges trilogy.
The Bill Hodges trilogy. That's a little bit different. That's newer King. I feel that's a little bit different, and especially since there is a connection between the Bill Hodges trilogy
and other books.
And other books as well. Speaking of which, let's finish the intros. Then I have a pop quiz for you.
Okay. So just the rest of it, if you guys want to find the podcast, if you're listening like on YouTube and want to find us elsewhere, you can find us on iTunes. You can stream us on Stitcher. You can find us on any of the third-party podcast services that are out there, and there are many. Podcast Addicts is my personal preference for podcast services. If you could be so kind as to subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, we would definitely appreciate that. You can find the show notes at darktowerpalaver.com. We got all kinds of cool stuff there. In fact, one of the things we have on there is the thing for new listeners, the questions we have. And I will give you a little bit of a spoiler for this episode. I've tried to adapt some of those questions that apply and actually applied them to the stand for this. So me and Peter will go through that and answer some of the questions, just adapting them from Dark Tower questions to questions about the stand. And if you guys want to contact us, you guys are part of the extended quartet, and there are many ways to do that. Peter can let you know on those.
Best way to reach us is through email. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. There's also a Facebook group. It's facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. And I got to give a shout out here to Agamore Fee, who said,
which is
Steve from Chicago.
Yeah, Steve.
Who said that he gave a shout out to Dark Tower Facebook group. Hope some people will join us in the chat today. Got to give a shout out to him. So thanks for that, Steve. We're also on Twitter. You can follow us there. It's at Dark Tower Pod. That's at Dark Tower POD. If you're listening to us right now live, we're on youtube.com/Dark Tower Palaver. We stream all of our shows live. The book clubs do not stay up. However, the roundtables and is this considered an Unfound Door episode?
Yeah,
is that what we're officially going to call it?
It's funny, right as we started this, because I edit the title so that whatever it shows, like what it shows the title for the live stream. I put at first I was like, man, am I going to put like roundtable, like Unfound Door or what? So what I ended up doing is putting Dark Tower Palaver, Unfound Door, then : the stand. So I guess it's kind of a new show. So I guess I can throw up the title card for
there. It is. So you can see our old shows for the roundtables, Unfound Doors, and also some of our commentaries. We have an Unfound Door on Castle Rock, and we have the.
Well, I think that was actually just a roundtable that we did on Castle.
It was a
Rock.
roundtable that we did.
We just kind of dedicated a roundtable to it. That's before we started to kind of merge the Unfound Door episodes, and I guess that would have been if we would have kind of planned and thought about what we were doing now. I guess kind of what we're doing now with the Unfound Door episodes was kind of on the fly. But if we had thought a little bit more about it, we probably would have just created that. It would have been the starting point of the Unfound Doors merging with the proper show instead of being like a standalone thing. So. Yeah, and just to what Peter's saying about the live stream, people that are in the live stream now, we got Mark, Cody, Steve, and that's who's chimed in so far. So being in part of the live stream is always awesome because you're able to kind of go like real time and talk to us and be part of the conversation as we go. And we definitely want to do that for everyone here. Hopefully everyone's read The Stand. And also, let's see. Yeah. Steve says, nice slide. Thank you. It's still it's funny because the newer versions of the book don't really carry this cover over, but it's always been one of my favorite covers. The newer one for the expanded version, I believe, is more of like a Grim Reaper on a horse, right? If I remember right. I have a hard copy of that. Plus, I think that's the one they show on Audible as well. Is it has the Grim Reaper on a horse. So there's
let me pull up my Audible. You want to know an interesting one is that the Kindle version for the longest time had a black guy with bling in his teeth as the cover.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know who that was supposed to be.
That's weird.
It was really weird. I wonder if it still shows up on my phone that way.
Wonder if it was on a mistake of some kind.
It looked too good to make me think that. It looked like it was supposed to belong. Okay, The Stand. It shouldn't be too long ago. No, The Stand Audible right now. Oh, no, don't download it. I just listened to that. Don't do that.
And that's a big one to download.
You can't see it really. I don't know if you can see I gotta play
I think
over
that.
here.
Oh no,
It's
that's the
a
one with like
highway.
the highway with the bodies on
Highway
it.
with
Maybe
the bodies on it.
Yeah, they have changed that, but
Let me.
But I love this cover. I think this is the original cover. I also love that it says a novel by the author of The Shining. So it's kind of cool to see we're here in like pretty much the first age of King. So it's one of those things that Stephen King wasn't this this name that was like so well known. You know, they were attaching it to the Shining, which came out shortly before. So it's kind of interesting to me that, but I love the picture on the cover. It's really great.
It still has it. Look, there's like some dude with like bling on it on the Kindle version.
Interesting.
Like I don't know what that's about. I don't know who that's supposed to be.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's an interesting one. I'm not sure. So yeah, you were saying about some kind of pop quiz when we talked about Bill Hodges. Are you? I will say
something that came up, and I haven't been able to fact check it, and I cannot find it on the internet right now. So I'm hoping maybe you can help me out by giving you a pop quiz.
The internets have failed you.
The internet has failed me. There is a boy band referenced in Mr. Mercedes. I'm not going to say how.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember what the name of the boy band is?
No. That's the kind of thing I wouldn't.
Does
really...
Round Here sound familiar?
Maybe. I really don't remember.
Okay, chat.
And all over the place.
Okay. If anyone else can help me with that, I need to know that, because if so, I have something to talk about. Well, that can wait for a second.
Okay, yeah, no, I really don't remember. That's like one of those minor things that I don't really that didn't really stick with me, I guess. Like, it's just I guess unimportant the way I looked at it. All right, so I'm trying to see. Is everyone?
Cody says I'm here in the chat. So
okay, okay, cool.
He says we're
awesome. So we're still being heard. It's interesting because on the YouTube page it's showing that it's showing like red, like it's like near failure, but then on the software thing it's showing green. So it's like dual messages. I don't know how to handle that. Yeah, I don't remember the name of the boy band.
Round Here sounds right though, doesn't it? I swear
I
swear that's what it's called.
I would be guessing, to be honest with you.
It's gonna bother me because if that is the case, then I think I have a link.
Cody, he's talking about the boy band in Mr. Mercedes.
I was saying it, and I think our show did drop for just a second. In Mr. Mercedes, there's a boy band, and it's referenced several times. Is it called Round Here?
Yeah, I personally.
If anyone can answer yes or no to that, just to make sure to see if I'm crazy or not.
Yeah, Steve's saying he can't get to his Mr. Mercedes book to answer. Okay. Yeah, I do not recall, and I actually don't have that one on Kindle, or I would just go and
I have the Audible as well.
Yeah,
so it's like
I have the Audible, and I think at one point it's probably in a box right now, but I bought like a collection of the three, and it has like a huge smiley face on the three spines to make up. So when you put them together, it's a big smiley face, which is creepy. Yes, I'm not sure. So
okay, I'm just gonna throw it out there. If it is Round Here, that is a very big deal.
Yeah,
because that'll be the first connection that will connect The Shining to Mr. Mercedes, and will make it to where Mr. Mercedes is officially a part of the Dark Tower universe.
I mean, are we saying it's not?
Do we have name me one thing in that trilogy that screams Dark Tower or any kind of connection whatsoever?
When they were first out, I thought there was at least some kind of passing reference to something, and I don't remember what it was.
It was all.
I thought I even mentioned it on the show when I was reading it.
Way too real and everything like that.
Oh, Cody was saying he was that was his guess for the name of the band. So he wasn't questioning why we were saying Round Here. He was saying that's
Round Here. Yeah. So there's a character who says Round Here in Doctor Sleep. Okay.
As a band?
It's one of the teenage girls is writing the names of the boys from Round Here in her notebook. They specifically say that it's a boy band, and I'm like, wait a minute, is that the Mr. Mercedes?
Honestly,
if that is, The Shining is tied to Dark Tower for sure.
I will say that is the case then with what you're saying, because think about it, King was writing these all around the same time.
Yep.
So I think that would probably be the way that he's connecting. I would almost, not that I remember, but I would say that if that is the case of what it is in there, I would say that it's a connection.
Because that's officially putting Mr. Mercedes into the Dark Tower universe. I mean, that's the thing is, like, if you look at the breadth of Stephen King's works,
yeah,
every single one of them's supposed to be connected in some way. Some are way more obvious, like Salem's Lot and The Stand.
Yeah.
Versus other ones like if you've read Carrie, you really don't have a way of saying that Carrie is directly related to the Dark Tower.
Yeah.
Aside from maybe saying that she has a similar type of her telepathy makes her a shiner.
Yeah.
The Shining.
She'd be a good breaker, is what you're saying.
She could be a breaker, exactly. But there's never been one that I can remember when I read through the Mr. Mercedes trilogy, and maybe it's time I go back and visit Bill.
It's been a while since
It's been a while for me. So
that is probably the name of the band. I'm almost certain
if that's the name of the band, I'm calling it. Mr. Mercedes is officially one of the directly linked Dark Tower books.
I don't know if it's directly.
It's directly.
It's connected to something that's directly.
No, that means that it's set in the same world as The Shining.
But yeah, but I assume that they're all in the same world, to be honest with you. That's always that's my base assumption, is that it's all connected in the same universe, I suppose. Maybe that's just me, but that's always my assumption of things. But yeah. So next up, I wanted to just throw out a little announcement before we dive too headlong into the stand.
Yes. I'm excited for this, guys.
So I guess I've teased for a while over the years now about, different podcasts and stuff. I've had some different things when it comes to like getting a co-host, I guess. And none of them have necessarily been as solid. So basically what I did is, I think it was about the 25th of October. I went and saw Halloween because that was the day that I went and saw the new Halloween because that was the day of the anniversary of the original movie coming out.
What anniversary?
40 years ago.
40 years.
Yeah. And just on the way home, I just thought of it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go home and I'm going to podcast about Halloween. It's one of my favorite movies. I don't know how, what it means or how I'm going to ever get it released, but I'm going to do it. So I did that, recorded it, and kind of just came to the conclusion. What I'm going to do is do a show on my own, which is kind of scary a little bit, but I think that it's been going well so far. So I've recorded a couple episodes, given Peter a few of the episodes to kind of listen to make sure that I'm not, really crappy on my own or whatever. But yeah, no. And then the idea being is that with the show, it'll be me primarily. And then I could bring people in. Peter can come and guest on it on occasion, plus a couple other people I've talked to about podcasting over the years. Maybe they couldn't be there all the time, but they could definitely come in for pop-ins.
Yeah.
Randall Flag pop-ins, as it were.
You mean I'd be a walk-in?
Yeah.
Hey, there it is.
Get the hell out of here.
I would have to walk in. I got to walk into your office if we're going to record.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So
the great thing about this announcement, guys, is I gotta be perfectly honest with you. Is the reason why this podcast isn't on more is simply because I honestly I don't know if I have the time. I have a family
and I did approach Peter first and foremost to be a co-host on this show, which would make us recording basically every week. Because even if we did that show every other week and this show every other week, it'd pretty much have us being recording all the time. And so you were the first one I approached.
Yep, it's too much. I want to stay with Dark Tower Palaver. I love Dark Tower Palaver so much. I love talking with you guys. I love the thing. But I'm so excited to be able to finally have Tad unchained, basically, is how it is. I've listened, like he said, he gave me a couple episodes. I've listened to them. He's great. He goes off, and the thing with Tad that I love about him is he's got this knowledge of a fan base. I can spring a question on him about Star Wars, Halloween. Tad, who was the third person killed in the second Halloween movie?
In the second one,
in the sequel,
that would catch me off guard.
You're gonna make me a liar right now, aren't you?
Yeah, because I didn't get a chance over October to rewatch them all, which I usually do. So it's probably been about 5 years since I watched the second one, to be honest with you.
Who's the second person killed in the original Halloween?
The second person would be that would be the mechanic on the side of the road.
See, there you go. That's what I'm talking about. I guess if he's watched his movies recently.
Yeah.
But Tad is a flat out nerd for so much. And it's one of the reasons why we're such good friends is because I can talk to him about anything from DC, Star Wars, to horror movies, to The Simpsons, anything, basically, when it comes down to it. The dude is sitting right now with a model T-800 hand from Terminator on his desk.
That's true.
It's sitting right there. It's a full-size replica from the movie, prop scale, right? Like 1-to-1 scale and everything like that?
Allegedly.
So this dude is a fan of so many things. And to hear him talk about it and finally have the the ability to get out there what he's always wanted to say about these things and everything like that. It's very exciting. If you're a fan of anything like what we've talked about here just now, give it a try because it is fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm going to be, and just to connect it to what we're doing here, because this is always going to be the first show, obviously, like the first show I've ever done and stuff, and it's hugely important to me. So it's kind of an Easter egg. The title of it will be Palaver with Tad.
Yes.
So, yeah, basically, I'm going to be submitting it to iTunes here in the next, probably today or tomorrow, and there's potentially a waiting period, but as soon as I have that for sure, I will maybe post on our social media a link to it. I'm not going to go too heavy on like haranguing you guys about it, but I do want to give you guys the opportunity to listen. For me, it's mostly just a passion thing to just talk about whatever whatever comes to mind and that kind of thing. And yeah, I don't know. So it's kind of going to be a general, probably pop culture-ish for the most part thing. So yeah, just be on the lookout for that. Hopefully, like depending on iTunes, depending on how, because they tell me it could be anywhere from 30 minutes up to 2 weeks. So I really don't know how long it'll take them to approve it. I don't remember how long they took it to approve Dark Tower Palaver. The problem is that's been 3 years ago now, so I don't really recall how long it'll take. So we'll see, and I'll let you guys all know when it posts, and hopefully some of you guys will join me and enjoy some nerdery on a wider scale, even outside of Stephen King. And I will save Dark Tower and Stephen King stuff for this show. For the most part, I mean, if I really want to do some crazy, like, I mean, I'm not saying I'm not going to do like the Shining movie or whatever on that show, but like, I'm not going to go in and start talking about, Stephen King books and Dark Tower stuff on that other show. So I'll keep
the comics for Dark Tower, stuff like that is going to be here on Dark Tower Palaver.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
So, yeah, be looking for that. It'll be fun. All right, so now we're going to jump over to our full discussion of the stand. It's been a little bit here with a little bit of back and forth for the intros and everything else. So
tangents, it's our specialty.
Yeah, that's true. So the stand, originally written in 1978, and some of the questions I asked in the last episode, I actually ended up doing the research and finding some of the answers here. So it was originally written in 1978. It originally clocked in at over 1,300 pages. It was cut down to
Lord.
It was cut down to 823 pages. It cut out 500 pages with nearly 500,000 words cut out originally to get to publish it in 78. Originally, it actually took place in 1980 because that was the question.
It did take place in a different decade. You were right.
Yeah, and then when it was first put in paperback, and it was released in the year 1980, the date was changed from 80 to 85. And I don't know that they changed anything in the actual material itself, but they at least changed the dates to shift to 1985 when the book came out in 1980 on paperback.
Nice.
So that's kind of interesting because we were talking about that. Now, it was expanded in 1990, and most of us, if you are kind of younger, I guess, or somewhat younger, and have read it later on, you probably have read the expanded version that came out in 1990. Now, this one restored some of the text cut from the original cut. I think it clocks in at somewhere around 1,150 pages, somewhere in that range. So he restored a chunk of it, but certainly not up to the 1,300 page mark that he had originally written. And he talks about that in his intro, which I would highly recommend getting. He talks about that some of the stuff was worth cutting, and it will never see the light of day type thing. So that's fine. And then obviously this was changed to how a lot of us have read it. The dates of the book were changed to 1990. And also I found it was said that he also did change pop culture references as well as his historical details. So he did indeed go back and somewhat brush up things, like we mentioned in the last in our roundtable last time. I mentioned things like how is he mentioning Ronald Reagan as president when he wrote it in 78? So he must have gone in and done some touch ups on the story to match the newer realities.
Yep.
And so he indeed did, including some pop culture references. So I think it'd be really fun at some point if I ever got my hands on the original unextended version. I would love to read it just to see how different it is.
Here's the real fast. The one of the lines he talks about when he's doing the restoration. I always have to bring this up when I talk to people because I love King's sense of humor. It's so dry. He says, I haven't restored all 400 of the missing pages. There's a difference between doing it right and just being downright vulgar.
So he says 400 pages there. Interesting. Thing I found said it was 500 pages were cut with, so somewhere in that ballpark though. A lot was cut, certainly. And that was originally just because it wasn't not quite the Tolkien thing, but it was similar. It was basically, they just said they didn't think they could sell a book at 1,300 pages, so cut it so we can get it to sell. Again, we're talking about a Stephen King that was maybe not as well known as he would have later become. He's certainly not the cultural icon that he is now.
Yeah.
Like even what we have up on the screen now, the fact that it says The Stand, Stephen King, Stephen King's on the bottom. Notice. Think about newer books. His name's usually at the very, very top of the cover.
Oh, yeah.
So it's at the bottom, and above his name is a novel by the author of The Shining. So it's playing on a previous success as well. So yeah, it's just in a different time and kind of a cool little time capsule to see where he was at. So I said, and I've said in the intro here as well, this is my favorite standalone book for Peter. It's in his top 3.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
so rotating for me. Like, if you asked me this week, I'd say it. Next week it'd be Carrie. Next week it'd be The Stand.
Yeah,
it's just so rotating for me. It just seriously depends on my mood for King.
Okay, and then anyone in the chat, you can let us know what you guys think. Where do you rank The Stand?
Yeah. So real fast, Tad's going to be asking us some questions, and I say us because he's going to be asking me. But I'm throwing it out there, guys in the chat, girls in the chat. Throw out your answers too.
Yeah.
There's stuff coming. Me and Tad actually did something that we usually don't do. We actually talked a little bit before the show about what we're going to talk about and everything. Usually Tad's got a plan. I'm here and I just react. Keeping my head in the sand with like the movie news and everything like that. Let Tad kind of like steer the ship, and I'm just here to color commentate and everything. This time though, Tad's got a plan. He let me know. I've been giving it a little bit of thought and everything, going over it. But we want to hear from you guys as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And people that are listening to the podcast, send us an email.
Yeah. Do that too.
Let us know what you guys think in the email too. People are listening in the standard traditional podcast manner. So the first one, and some of these are pretty much ripped from our questions on the Dark Tower, and I basically took the ones that could still apply to The Stand and decided to repurpose them. So the first one: how did you come to read The Stand? And I think we've talked on the show a number of times that I eventually put you on The Stand, right? A little ways in.
Do you remember the first time we ever talked about The Stand?
No.
I read Salem's Lot. I loved it. That was my introduction to King, was you giving me Salem's Lot and saying, here, read this. I don't know if I like horror books. You're like, shut up and read it. I said, okay. Because that's basically how most things with Tad work. Hey, watch this movie. No, I don't think so. Yeah, watch it. Okay, I will.
And do I steer you wrong? That's the real question.
This question actually came up the other day.
Yeah.
My wife were talking about it. She's like, you've turned me on to so many great things. I was like, yeah, I know. That's what Tad did with me too. Is like, like when Tad met me, I was this good little, religious boy. I was planning on going on an LDS mission and everything. I had never even seen a single rated R horror movie in my life. That's vastly different now.
Yeah.
I think I've seen 3 horror movies this year with you or something like that.
Yeah, sounds about right.
But we were talking after I finished Salem's Lot, and you're like, there's a lot more Stephen King out there. Not everything is horror like Salem's Lot. Seriously, do you want recommendations? And I was like, yeah, what else we got? And you're like, well, there's this, and there's this, and there's it, and there's The Stand. But you probably want to wait for those two. And I'm like, why though? Why should I wait? Well, Salem's Lot was this big, and he holds up his fingers, inch and a half apart. I'm like, okay, yeah, normal novel. He goes, yeah, The Stand is this. And he holds it up like, make it look like freaking like 3 Bibles stacked on top of each other. He's like, that's The Stand. And he's like, there's a lot in it. He's like, I definitely would steer away from that one for a little bit. Get your footing in King, and then we'll talk more about The Stand and it. They're both very lengthy novels. And I was like, all right. I think I read Carrie, and then I bought The Stand without talking to you.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I was not ready. I got sucked in, of course.
Yeah.
But I was not ready. I think I went without like a full 8 hours of sleep for like 3 weeks while I was reading that book.
Yeah.
Because I'd always stay up and read it. So
yeah. So Steve from Chicago says, it is always number 1 for me. Stand is not a huge favorite. Only read it twice, the original and the expanded. It's difficult for me to rank them after it. So hard to rank King after it. And that's totally fine.
Uh-huh.
I will say, I can't remember who it was, but there was somebody that, I worked with. I don't know if they're even still around. But I remember at some point talking to someone and mentioning The Stand, because they had mentioned liking some Stephen King. and they said they loved the first half, but once the plague basically settles, they said they did not like the rest of the book. And I found that really interesting. And like, I don't even think that for me, I'd ever really put together that you almost have two books there, like stylistically. For me, it's all just one big story, and probably the characters was what blurred the lines for me. But once I realized that, like, now I can't get that out of my head that, you have two separate kinds of books there. You've got, kind of a supernatural, almost religious, not like in a bad way, like in terms of like preachy or anything, but like it's like a religious God and Satan,
very good
battle
versus evil.
Yeah, good versus evil type.
Not a good versus evil like Hans Gruber versus John McClane from Die Hard. Good versus evil. This is a very biblical.
Yeah,
the way I always describe it.
Definitely. And so I'd never really put that together till now, but that is how I view it now. And even when I read it now, there's points where I'm just like, like I can like kind of look at it more objectively and say like, oh yes, this is certainly different than the later part of the book will turn into. Like this is, I don't know, this is a plague. This is basically, this could be like what you see in zombie movies or zombie shows. This could be a show like that, and then just end it with, very few survivors. You know, they could easily be that. So
for sure. Cody says, I remember watching the Stand miniseries when I was a kid. The book was a natural progression for me.
Okay, awesome. So Cody, you and I are the same. So the miniseries came out in 94. I was 8 years old. I think it was out before my birthday. So I was 8 years old, and I watched it. I certainly hadn't delved into King yet. I probably would have still been dabbling, I guess what you'd call novels. Like me as a kid, I always called it chapter books. And I think I probably at that age probably would have been more in the Goosebumps realm. That kind of thing versus reading King yet. I think I was at least in double digits before I started delving into King. So I'm right with you, Cody. I watched the miniseries, watched all the way through, and for me, so that's my entrance into it. And we'll talk in just a bit about the miniseries a little bit before we maybe it's, I don't even know if it's part of these questions, but it is. So, but I'm that same way. I introduced myself to the Stand through that, and then the book came later. So. It's cool. I didn't know Cody. I didn't know if I'd be the only one that way, to be honest with you, because especially now, I feel like the series is a lot more obscure than it would have been like when it came out and stuff. Like you don't see like huge releases for it. You don't see it like it's not one that's like constantly on the shelves to buy. It's it's a product of its time. Like it doesn't have the same iconic, long held nature of like the It miniseries. Yeah. Like that one has like really captured the pop culture zeitgeist, and like there's people that grew up scared of clowns because of Tim Curry's performance. The Stand didn't really have that.
Here's a perfect example of what you're talking about. I was at Walmart yesterday doing some shopping, and they had a throwback VHS end cap. So like the Stranger Things,
I heard about that.
The Stranger Things box set that I got you that looks like a VHS.
Yeah,
they're doing that for Blu-rays now.
Yeah.
And they had Commando, they had First Blood, the first Rambo movie.
Yeah.
And they had the It miniseries.
Oh, okay.
That's exactly what you're talking about. It wasn't the Stand up there. It was It. It was like a perfect example of what you're talking about. Is that the It is like it's not necessarily, I don't want to say a cult classic, but it's one that, man,
I'd say it's a classic.
It made an impression when it dropped in the 90s.
It did. And that's just something the Stand didn't have. So I just think that in a lot of ways, time has somewhat forgotten it beyond like those of us that, have read the books and gone back to watch it, or those of us that, saw it at the time. And Cody says that about the same time I watched it, rented it on VHS. And like me, I actually remember watching it on television. I watched it with the commercials. Really? I watched each episode. I can't remember if it was like a weekly thing or if it was like 1 week, like each night. I don't remember exactly, but I do remember like, again, my mom growing up, my mom is a huge Stephen King fan. So it was like one of those things, like we were going to watch it. It was just one of those things like, we had to watch this. Like, this is going to be awesome type thing.
Has she ever confirmed if you're named for the little boy in Cujo?
No.
She still hasn't admitted to that yet?
No, she never will.
I'm tempted to go ask.
Yeah, but no. So that's me. I remember watching it on the television itself, and it was probably much later in life that I even was able to rewatch it. I don't think I ever got it on VHS. I think it was honestly a DVD release when I saw it and bought it. Was the first time that I ever rewatched it again. So you're talking probably in a decade and a half or so from when I first watched it till when I saw it again.
Do you know how many times I borrowed that DVD release from you?
Yeah.
Because it was not a normal DVD. It wasn't a thin case. It was a thicker
It was a
one.
thicker case.
Yeah, right? Do you still have that one?
Yeah. That's the only one.
You still have that?
That's the only one I have. You know, generally speaking, like the last few times I've personally seen it in stores, it hasn't even been on its own. It's been part of like Stephen King box set or like collections that like has like 4 or 5 different King. I hate those. I refuse to buy any kind of thing.
Yep.
Like I'll buy a set if it's a singular movie. Like, oh, here's the Die Hard series. Fine, I'll buy something like that. But don't you dare patch together a bunch of movies together and then throw them out in a single case. I'm totally against that. So
you want me to kind of make you mad?
No.
I have a Hannibal and Silence of the Lambs box set.
The movie Hannibal, right?
Yeah, where it's called Hannibal.
Yeah, because that comes down to like studios. I think there's like different studios involved with different things, but see, at least those have some connection though.
Yeah.
Like it's just for me, it's like those like when it's like I guess you can call Stephen King the connection, but like I don't buy that. It's like don't throw some shitty Children of the Corn sequel, the Stand, Dead Zone. Like don't throw that shit all in a box set and throw it at me. No, give me each of those as individual things and I'll buy them. You know, but that's just me.
So speaking of the Stand DVD, I told you this before we went on the air, and I want to tell our fans this too. It was really funny because, like I was just mentioning, I saw the It on that end cap where it has like the VHS cover and everything.
Yeah,
I happened to be walking past that famous dump bin where me and you have both worked at Walmart. That's not where good movies usually go, right?
Yeah,
sitting right on top, perfectly framed to look at me when I was walking past, not askew, not backwards, not flipped upside down or anything like that. Was the Stand box set. I grabbed it, turned to my wife and said, I'm getting this. And she goes, it's $5. I said, yeah. She goes, okay. She's like, what is it? I'm like, this is a Stephen King miniseries. And she goes, okay. And I'm like, what? No questions? No, like, wait for Christmas. I have a birthday that's coming up, not next week, but the week after. And she goes, no, I know it's no use with you when it comes to Stephen King. She's like, it's not even worth it. So,
yeah. So Steve says, Walmart is the best place for Stephen King movies. Let's see. Cody says he does have it in a collection, and I actually know because I had a friend that at one point lent me one of those Stephen King collections for, I can't remember what it was, but it was like a really obscure one that I couldn't find any other way, so he lent it to me, and it had the Stand on it too. And you know what? A lot of people love those, but like it's just me, especially with my collection.
That's it right there. Tad nailed it on the head. That's
for me. It's the collection thing because like I alphabetize things. Peter may not like this, but like for instance, if he looked at my collection, 2 of the Die Hard movies are nowhere near the rest of them. Because they're named differently. So they're
Live Free or Die Hard is in the L's, and it drives me up the goddamn wall. Just put the fucking Die Hards together. What the hell is wrong with you?
Never. Creed is nowhere near the Rocky movies.
Well, that one makes sense. That's like a spin-off movie. I'm fine with that one. But for the love of God, just put the fucking Die Hards together, you animal.
Never. So that's why I don't like those collections personally, is that it forces me to put them all together.
You know what the worst one is, guys? The worst one is the freaking George Romero zombie movies.
Oh, yeah, they're not together.
Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Diary of the Dead, Land of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead. They're all in their appropriate letter. So if I want to go find a fucking Romero movie, I got to go by name. So and the worst part is Tad's
just
movies,
like a library would be.
Tad's movies now have expanded. I don't know if I've taken an updated picture for you guys. I know I did a couple years ago when Tad first had this shelf built. He had his second shelf built. He has 2 almost ceiling to floor shelves of DVDs and
I'm running out of room.
And he's already running out of room. He's filled both of them.
Yeah.
He's seriously, I'm looking over here and I'm seeing 1, 2, hold on, I got to go off mic for a sec. 3 out of like the 6 shelves over here behind Tad are seriously almost all the way to the edge, which means he has to start expanding. And the problem that he also will do is he won't split up movies. So like Halloween, if it's coming to the edge of the aisle, he won't split them up.
Yeah.
And have half the Halloween's over here and the other half all the way back over here.
As much as I can help it, yeah, I avoid that. So,
You're a monster. Wait. Do you do it with the Friday the 13th movies too?
It's separate because there's the box set Friday the 13th 1 through 8.
Right.
Then you have like Freddy versus Jason. Jason Goes to Hell.
So like Jason X is not with Friday the 13th movies.
No.
It's over in the J's.
Yes.
You're a goddamn animal.
And then Steve says something here too. He says they always have a few good ones and a total bomb that you don't want at all. And yeah, that's I'm convinced that's why they even do them. These stupid collections is because they're trying to get some sales on some movies that nobody would ever buy otherwise. But no, that's only a side thing. For me, primarily it is putting it on the shelf and making sure that things are alphabetized the way they should be. Because I am not a savage, so I keep them all nice.
You are straight up a savage. Straight up. Here you go. Just for shits and giggles, I pulled it up. Walmart.com. Stephen King's triple feature features The Stand, The Langoliers, and Golden Years.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always ones like that. And personally, for instance, one that another off-topic tangent, but The Shootist, one of John Wayne's last movies. Mm-hmm. For the longest time, I couldn't find that in any other way, so I bought some dumb double collection that has that and something else. And, a year or so later, I ended up finding The Shootist on its own, so I bought that.
And threw the other
one away.
You threw it away.
Yes.
You didn't even give it to a fan or anything like that because you don't want that abomination on someone else's shelf.
No, I never thought about it that way. It's just sure. I just threw it away because the only reason I bought this is to have The Shootist on its own. So now that I have The Shootist on its own,
that would be a hilarious box set to buy you just as a spoof gift. The Shining and Full Metal Jacket. The Kubrick box set.
Yeah.
But put The Shining and Full Metal Jacket in one DVD case.
Yeah. To hell with that. To hell with that. All right. So that's the first question. The next question, was it your first book from King?
I already answered that.
You already answered that. And I will say, no, it wasn't for me. The Shining's the first one that I ever picked up. When I was I can't remember, 12 or somewhere in that age range, early double-digit age range there.
Yeah.
So that was not it for me. But certainly a question I would ask, because I'd find that interesting if you came to The Stand first. Now here's where we get into the heavier part of the conversation. Favorite character in the book.
I want you to guess who my favorite character is, because I'm pretty sure that I've told you before, but with your memory, you probably don't remember what I said 5 minutes ago.
Because of television, I don't remember what happened 5 hours ago.
Can you guess who my favorite character is? After 17 or 18 years of knowing me.
Here we go.
All right.
I'm going to give it to you. Don't respond because I'm going to tell you the reasoning for it. So, there's 2 characters I have connected in my mind, whether it's right or not. In fact, I've even told some people that have listened long term, a actor in this show, this miniseries for The Stand, I had placed into a role in the Dark Tower series. It was Larry. The actor that played Larry is who I've always pictured as Eddie. I don't know why. I know, that's not the way he's described, whatever. But there's just something about those two that are very similar to me. Their character arcs, their mannerisms, their style, I feel they're both very similar. So I would guess Larry, personally, for you. And that's the reasoning, the scientific reasoning behind it is because I really feel, I don't know what it is. It's hard for me to find, but I feel like those 2 characters have a lot in common. I mean, they're different. You don't really have a junkie element with Larry, not in the same way it is with Eddie, but I feel like they both are very similar, and who they become versus who they start out, I feel like they're 2 peas in the pod. I would call them twinners in my mind.
They're both fuck ups. Larry doesn't, like you're saying, he doesn't have an addiction problem. He does have a little bit of a drug problem. He was high.
Yeah.
And everything.
But he's not like
that.
a junkie necessarily.
He's not a junkie.
Yeah, he's basically a musician that kind of has the whole musician scene along with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's got the women, he's got the drugs, he's living the rock and roll lifestyle basically.
Would you be surprised at all to find out that Eddie met someone, picked up a guitar and was able to play Jimi Hendrix or something like that, Just instantly just started being able to belt out a tune? Would that surprise you at all if that happened in a Dark Tower book?
I've never pictured that, but no, it wouldn't. I think it would be part of his character that, he'd probably maybe be able to play.
Be able to pick out a tune on the guitar and everything like that.
Yeah.
By the way, you are 1,000% correct.
Really?
Yep,
Okay.
Absolutely. And you know what's funny? Is the reasoning is the same.
Really?
They are such similar characters. They're such great showings of men who have overcome a lot, been given a lot, and still had to suffer.
Yeah.
Larry's basically about to break it big.
Yeah.
And everything. And he still goes through a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And he is, don't take this the wrong way, fans of Larry and Eddie, they're both pieces of shit.
Especially early on.
Especially early on, and especially at certain points. There are certain points where I can't even defend Eddie in the Dark Tower, and I can't defend Larry's actions. But I relate to them on an emotional level because they are very similar moral compass to me. I understand why they make mistakes because they're human, and I understand that I've made mistakes because I'm.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why I'm so drawn to them. Versus someone like Stu, who is just so goddamn perfect.
Yeah, and see,
and I love. Don't get me wrong, I love Stu.
As I typed this question out, I remember thinking to myself, like, "What's Peter to answer?" And there's part of me that thought maybe Stu, just because he does have that moral compass.
Yep.
He's kind of the main character. Not that you gravitate towards main characters per se, but like I feel like he has like that. If there is the straight and narrow Boy Scout type in the story, which you do gravitate toward those types on occasion.
I do.
So there's part of me that's like, it could be Stu. It really could be. You know, he's soft spoken. He's not loud. He's not brash. Like, but like there's just part of me I'm like, no, it just doesn't feel right.
Nope.
And like, but there was like part of me though, I'm like, I could end up being wrong, and it could just be my bias that I've connected these two characters. You know, so I didn't even know that you shared that they were similar characters. So for me, I'm like, it might just be me. The fact that I've always pictured Eddie as the actor from the Stan miniseries, maybe that's just it. And it's just polluting my mind, and I'm just guessing that he's going to like Larry. But
it's a very similar time frame. I mean, Eddie was taken in 86 is when he was taken.
Yeah,
Larry's from the 90s.
Now the 90s, yeah.
Oh, 40,
would have been the 80s or even 85.
85, yeah, exactly. So it does not surprise me that they are
they're both men at the same time period in a lot of ways.
They're men that would be very close in age. I mean, they'd be within 5 years of each other.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not like Larry hit it big when he was 21.
Yeah.
I don't think he even went out west until he was older than 21. Because he talks about drinking with his friends in New York.
Yeah.
I mean, not that underage drinking isn't a thing, but
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like actually drinking at like a bar and everything like that is what I always pictured and everything. But yeah, the similarities between the two, and I think the big thing is that the dude who plays Larry in the miniseries, dude, he looks exactly like my visual representation of Eddie as well.
Really?
The little bit longer hair, not like
yeah,
wrestlers' hair where it's down their back or anything like that. But that chin length, almost shoulder, in between chin and shoulder length, brown hair, strong face.
He's the New Yorker, right?
He's from New York. Yeah, it just screams Eddie.
Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah, totally. And then Cody says his King collection, the King collections are an easy way for him to collect as many as he can. And yeah, I totally get that. Like I said, I think I'm in the minority. I think more people have an easy time just buying those, and people like Peter that even if he bought them separately, he'd probably connect them together as a King thing in his collection anyway. It's just me. It's my neuroses that puts me against them personally.
To be fair, that is the only box set of that kind that I own. My wife owns a few, but you did turn me on to alphabetizing my movies.
Oh, okay.
Because I do keep a very strict alphabetation, because if I want to go find the crow, I'm going to go look in the C's, I'm going to pull it out, I'm going to watch it, I'm going to back. That is how I work.
There was someone, I can't remember, it was somebody I can't remember if it was somebody we went to high school with, but there was someone that I was friends with on Facebook for some years after, and not friends anymore. But they had a collection that was probably even bigger than mine currently.
Yeah,
and it wasn't alphabetized. It was entirely helter skelter. It was 100% like you would literally have to go through one by one to find what you wanted. It wasn't alphabetized, nothing. There was no organization to it. He just had them on a shelf. He'd buy new ones and just put it on the shelf, and and I was just like, dude, I would die.
You're not thinking about my parents, are you?
No.
Okay.
No.
I was going to say, because my parents have that big wall-mounted VHS stand. Now it's a DVD stand. And they had movies just thrown up there. So seriously, it was like, hey, my sister's name is Jess. Hey, Jess, come help me find, Pete's Dragon.
Yeah.
Hey, come help me find Lion King. And seriously, it would be two kids standing in front of this 7 feet by 7 feet TV, movie thing.
Yeah.
There it is on the third shelf up there in the top right.
Yeah.
Like, the hell is it? Finally, one day I moved all the shit out of the way. I took everything off. My mom came in. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm alphabetizing this." And she's like, "Okay," and just walked out. Just walked away.
Yeah.
Was it you that was telling me about there's a subreddit for movie collections?
Yeah.
Right? Wasn't there someone who told you on that subreddit that said that they collect and they separate by Blu-ray and DVD format?
They do. A lot of them do, actually.
And wasn't there someone who actually does it by genre?
I get that because OCD-wise,
they're different sizes.
It bothers people, the different sizes of the two different styles of cases. Yeah, and there's also people that'll do it by genre. There's people I know that will bunch them together. Like they'll have their MCU collection, they'll have a Star Wars collection, things like that. But yeah, I like. There's different ways people do it, but no, I'm like, it's got to be alphabetized.
The big one that drove you, I don't want to say nuts, but it kind of was a question for you on how you would handle it, is box sets and TV shows.
Yeah.
Because there's different ways to handle that amongst your collecting freaks like you.
Yeah. Some people put like their box, like their TV stuff separate and stuff. Now, it's all just mixed in, alphabetized. So
Steve says Larry equals Eddie. Good call. I think Larry, Eddie are SK self-image. I mean, if Stephen King. I mean, Stephen King, if he never became a writer or a family man. That is a very good assessment. I think that's very apt.
Yeah, that is certainly that is a really good call there. And then Cody also says his first King book was The Gunslinger.
That's a good one to start with.
Yeah, especially because then you wouldn't have the built-in like expectation of what a King book is like, so you'd be able to maybe just enjoy it and just okay, this is Stephen King. You know?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting one. So for me, favorite character,
Fran.
I mean, is there any question?
There's not a doubt in anyone's mind who's ever listened to a single one of our shows. Of course yours is Randall Flagg.
Yeah, the hero of the story, Randall Flagg.
Stop it with that shit, will you?
The walking dude, man. And this is his absolute best outing. Like, in terms of, like, he has probably the most page count, the most word count. This is certainly his biggest... This is his starring role, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
this title screen, if it was going off of characters, would be Stu Redman, Larry Underwood, maybe Mother Abigail, and Randall Flagg. That he would make top 4, maybe top 3.
Yeah, he's certainly
easily.
Yeah, like not count. Like if you looked at just as a character perspective. Obviously, if there were like actors involved, then you shuffle it by actors, right? Like which actors.
But if you're
bigger.
just looking straight characters, because it's easy to do that. If you take The Shining, number 1 character in The Shining, Jack Torrance.
Yeah.
Number 2, Wendy. Number 3, Danny. Number 4, Dick Halloran. After that, everyone else is just those are the ones that come, after the title card and the director and all that.
They could just be there as you're watching the bug climb the mountain.
Yeah, exactly. But the ones that come up, and I always thought of this kind of my way of thinking of it. This is just dumb kid Peter way. It was Arnold Schwarzenegger, Predator. It's whoever's before the title. That's your star.
Oh, and it really is, because I mean, think about it from a marketing standpoint. The only time you're going to do that is as if the person, in a lot of ways, the person is bigger than the movie. Like the reason people are going to see Commando or Predator is because of Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? In the 80s, like that's the only reason people are going.
Right.
If they end up liking it from there, great. But the reason they're going is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Exactly.
And I would say in general, you're right. Like it's very rare, honestly, that you see a name come before the title of the movie. But usually if it does, it's usually a big deal. It's like, it's your Will Smith, it's your, Dwayne Johnson, it's your, it's
Will Smith, Tommy Lee Jones, Men in Black. That's how it goes for me, and that's where I think of it. And so, like, if I think in that vein with The Stand, seriously, I think the 4 that would be up there would be Stu Redman.
Okay, here we go. If you're doing like almost like a fantasy football thing for fantasy casting, and you could have A-list actors for 4 roles, what 4 roles do you put A-list actors in?
Stu, Larry, Flagg. And I think I would split it 2 and 2. I think I would go. I just fucking spaced on his name. Prison guy.
Lloyd.
I wanted to say Henry, but that wasn't right.
Henried.
Lloyd Henry. Yeah, that's why.
Henried.
Okay.
Though,
Henried.
Yeah, okay. It's a weird name, but yeah.
Lloyd. I think those 4. If I could do A-list actors for those 4, basically after that, it's going to be a phenomenal movie no matter what, because the relationship between Flagg and Lloyd. Could potentially be the best relationship in a Stan movie. The way those two have it set up, Flagg saving Lloyd and everything like that, Lloyd staying loyal to him all throughout all the shit, even when people come and good friends come and ask him, "Hey, let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
It's not looking good." Lloyd sticks with it and everything. That's where I think that you have one of those. You look at something like The King's Speech or some movie like that where it's of drama, and you're like, okay, well, obviously the main character and the main relationship is going to be between the King's Speech guy and the guy who's like the therapy guy.
Yeah.
But then you turn around and it's the wife and their son.
Yeah.
Whose relationship all of a sudden, I'm not saying that's the way it is in the King's Speech. I don't really remember. It's just one that I saw in your collection. But it's something like that where it's like, oh, it should be these 2 characters that are the best, biggest interest. but then it's a surprise and it's these two over here. And oh my God, did this one actor elevate it? I think that if you put 2 A-list actors with Flag and Lloyd, oh my God, you can make a great movie just off of that.
Now, here's a question for you. On your good guys side, you said Larry and Stu. What about Nick? I mean, in a lot of ways, the book is written in a way that Nick is the main character. We know how it ends, but like think about how Mother Abigail talks about stuff. Like Nick is the leader. He's the one. Like even when they all get together in Boulder, everyone looks to Nick for answers. You know,
right.
Like it isn't like even in the. I feel like even in like the council,
even Stu does it.
Yeah, I think even the council looks to Nick. So it's like, is Nick the lead? And here, another just. I'm not saying your list is wrong. I'm saying here's some to think about. So what about Nick? And also, what about I can't believe I just blanked on his name. Harold.
Oh, Harold Lauder.
Wouldn't that be one that you? I mean, I'm not saying you had. I'm just saying those are ones to consider. Like, would be interesting. But it is one of those things, though. Yeah, like because I feel like that's a way to like Dark Tower wise. If you're doing Dark Tower, you know, if you have 4 A-listers you can pull into the movie,
that's easy.
You know, like those are questions you ask because it's like because then you put yourself in the position where you're like you have to like you know because if you do dream casting you could have all A-listers. You know, you could have freaking like I don't know, you could have like
Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise.
Yeah, you can have like all the biggest
Morgan
actors.
Freeman, Samuel L. Jackson. I'm just naming off good actors that I like, you know, and everything.
Yeah, but when you get into realism, it's like you're only going to be able to fit a few really big stars in it. So, yeah, I think that's something. But I think the Flag, he would definitely be one that would draw one of the big characters. Because I feel like as deep as you get into the Boulder side, you don't get that as heavy with. I mean, I feel like you do definitely explore Trash Can Man and Lloyd, but I don't feel that you get them as deeply as you get the other side. And I think the way that makes up for it, though, is that Flag has way more coverage than like Mother Abigail, right?
The only two that you get really from the Flag side is Trash Can Man and Lloyd.
And Lloyd, but neither of those two come close to like your coverage of Franny or Stu or Larry.
Look at Lloyd's backstory. How far back does it go?
Who?
Lloyd. How far back does his backstory go?
Just the Poke stuff.
His first time in prison where he met Poke. It was stuff like that, like maybe that far back.
Yeah.
Trash Can Man, you get the full story.
You go from childhood.
From basically from birth almost.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. So, but okay, how many characters do you go back that far in the good side? Fran, basically Stu.
So-called good side.
Well, you go back to Stu being a kid and everything like that.
Yeah, because they kind of go through his like his mom dies and
his dad dies. He has to quit football. And raise his little brother.
Yeah,
and his mom gets sick. That's why he does that because his mom can't work anymore.
But do we even go? How far back do we go with Larry's backstory?
Larry's backstory, like you get some with his mom. Where she's like, you've always been a taker and all that stuff.
Yeah, but you don't get like the story depth where you go back to his childhood necessarily.
You kind of get like what you get with Lloyd. Lloyd and Larry get about the same
Nick
length.
You do, though.
Nick you do, because you get the whole stories about him, the guy
with
that
the people that are
him,
helping him,
the one guy that taught him how to read and write and everything.
But then after he dies, you kind of get the story of kind of what happens to him that brings him to like.
Then like it's like he's 17 and he just like instead of going into a home, he goes on his own.
He runs away, yeah,
he goes on his own and no one cared. He's 17, let him go,
kind
of thing. Fran, you get a lot from Fran because of the backstory with her mom and everything like that.
Yeah,
not anything from Glenn, not anything from Ralph or.
When you start getting into like
Tom Cullen.
When you start getting into like the B side characters,
you're already outside of the ones that walk to Vegas or who were on the council.
Yeah,
you know, Dana or any of those ones you don't.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally. So yeah, for me it's certainly Flag. Now if I'm going beyond that, if I'm going to the quote unquote good guys, as you say,
they are the good guys. Just stop. just give up a little illusion that Flag is a good guy.
I'm not.
Save it for the summit.
I'm not sure who. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not prodding you, sir. I'm just calling it like I sees it.
Every single time you're saying it. Don't even
call it like I sees it. I'm trying to think. I don't know. Honestly, I have a hard time. Like, I will say not necessarily a favorite, but I would say one of the most compelling characters I feel is Harold. I feel like it's easy to just kind of have a certain attitude about him because of the attitude that he has. But like, you delve into his backstory a little bit, to go into like, like his relationship with his parents and like his sister. And like, I feel like King did a really good job of making him a very sympathetic person. And one that I think that even if you're straight and narrow down the line of like Boulder, they're the be all end all. I don't think you could sit there and say that like maybe that Harold, you can't understand why Harold did what he did. You know what I mean? Like, it isn't just that he is just this prick that just whatever. Like, you could see from his perspective, if you want to look from his angle of it, you could see why he does what he does. And I feel like that's a cool thing by King, and that's something that we obviously see with King throughout. He does a really good job of not just building up certain characters. He builds up all of his characters in a good way. And I feel like because of that, I think Harold's one of the most interesting characters, but I don't know if that's favorite for me. I don't know, man. I have a hard time. I guess I have a hard time with that. So I guess I just call it flag.
Steve says Nick has to be an actor who would be okay with having very little dialogue. And still, seriously,
no, it's true.
The perfect thing with Nick is that you could just recast Rob Lowe. He looks the same.
Yeah, he looks the same as he
exact
does.
Same as he
He's
did
a
back
fucking
then.
vampire. So.
Swear to God, he is.
But see, I think the no dialogue thing though would almost be the reason. I almost think you'd almost have to go A-list for him, because you need a really good actor to be able to portray everything he needs to portray throughout that story. One-eyed, and they can't talk. You know what I mean? Like,
he doesn't lose the eye in the book.
What's that?
He doesn't lose the eye in the book.
He has the eye patch in the book.
He wears the eye patch for a while, and then it comes off. After a while, he's able to take it
off. I
don't
remember taking it off. I remember it talking about it fairly throughout. So, either way, unless you completely remove that like they do in the mini series, that's a challenging role for sure. Yeah. And it also would be someone younger, right? That's the other thing I always found interesting. Is like everyone's looking to this guy, but he's like 21-ish, like 22.
I think he actually says in the book that he's like 23 or 24.
I thought it was like 22, because I think somebody, when they bust his balls about, can you even drink? Are you old enough to drink?
I think he says like, yeah, I'm 23. I can enjoy a beer without getting. It's the sheriff that busts his chops.
So like the fact that he would be a younger guy that will kind of become the natural leader for these people that are, older than him, old enough in some cases to be his parents or grandparents. I think that'd be a challenging role for sure. Okay, so let's go on to the next question. Most emotional the book made you. Could be sadness, excitement, joy, or anything in between.
Deep-seated fear of a cold.
It
still lingers to this day. Every time I get sick, it's Captain Trips. I am so terrified of a virus now that would kill 99.9% of humanity. Like that's just that still gets me to this day.
Yeah.
A little confession: there's a game called Plague Inc. It's a mobile game.
Yeah.
Where you make a virus or different kinds of things to kill the world. Almost every time I play, I name it Captain Trips.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Me too.
Me too. It's how I should roll. That's definitely something that stuck with me even after like finishing the book.
Yeah.
It's still there. Like I get sick. And I think I even text you almost every time. Oh God, Captain Trips is gonna get me. And then Tad writes back, "Oh, sick, huh?
Yeah.
Stay the hell away from me."
Or like me, like I'll be like in the middle of reading it, and I'll go to like see a movie, and then I hear someone coughing or sneezing. I'll be like, yeah.
Well, because it's not only The Stand either. I mean, there's that scene in Outbreak that has it too, where literally you see someone coughing and the spit flies into a woman's mouth that's laughing. And she's like, "Ugh."
Yeah. Indeed. For me, it's none of the ones that I listed here, but because I was talking about the Dark Tower when I wrote this question. But if I add fear, the tunnel
which
with
one?
Larry is one of the most terrifying scenes. In my experiences, it's probably one of the most terrifying things that King has written. Some of the dreams with Flag, specifically the ones with like him and Mother Abigail and him in the corn, those get me pretty good with just kind of terror and fear. So that's probably it for me in terms of like most emotional reactions. That'd probably be it for me.
Yeah, that one. I forgot about the tunnel for a second. I try to block this. The other one that gets me that sticks with me is what happens with Larry and I want to say Nadine, but that's not right. The woman
Rita.
Rita. When he gets up on the 4th of July and belts out the Star Spangled Banner and goes in and she's dead. How long was I sleeping next to her and everything?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Let's see. And then Steve says, cold/virus/flu, always hard to deal with while reading The Stand. Yes, also the tunnel. Yeah, I think the tunnel is definitely up there for some of King's greatest writing. It has some of those too, where they just get you every time. And the tunnel's one for me that gets me every time. Yeah, I don't know. That's definitely some creepiness there. Next up, let's see. Sorry. What do you think of the miniseries?
I love it.
What's your thoughts on it?
It's not, like what we're going to get now when what is it? Josh Boone, adapts.
Hopefully, hopefully he does good.
I do like it though.
You know what surprised me? Okay, if you had to guess. Because I tend to notice that it's dated. I still love it because kind of growing up with it now, and I could see past its 90s vibe that it has. Even just it just feels made for TV in a lot of ways, which I guess it was, but it just doesn't. I don't know. But all that aside, I still enjoy it. But I never really felt that it would be overly loved. If you had to guess, IMDb has the fan rankings out of 10, right? Where would you guess it would be?
Gut reaction was 7.6, but I'm going to say a little bit lower and say 6.4.
Okay. It was 7.2. Okay. And that actually surprised me. I thought it would be in the 5s, maybe 6s if it was just because it versus today's quality, I don't think that it comes close to lining up to what people maybe expect. So I was really shocked to see it rank so high, to be honest with you. Because to me, that's above average, right? In my opinion. When you get into the 70s out of 100, that's above average. It's not Citizen Kane or Godfather, but that's above average.
It's a movie people can throw in.
Yeah.
By the way, just to clarify, I looked it up. It doesn't look like you're old enough to drink. Nick shook his head indignantly. I'm 22.
Okay.
Good call.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was 22. So that's for me. I love the series. The entire book is defined for me by the series. Again, I saw the series first. There's not a single person in the book that I don't picture as their series person.
Oh, really?
Even in cases of ones that I'm not really as big a fan of. There's some of the castings that are meh for me. I think they could certainly do better, but doesn't matter. That's still how I picture them.
Name one
that I don't like.
Yeah.
I'm honestly not a fan of Molly Ringwald as Franny. I don't know what it is. You're just
not a fan of Fran.
It just doesn't. There's something about it that it just doesn't feel right for me for some reason. I feel and I don't know who it would have been in that era, but I feel just some younger unknown actress probably would have been better, or up and coming actress versus the star of the 80s. It felt weird to me. It felt out of place for me.
Well, we just talked about it. The stars of the show. Which ones are we going to look at for A-list actors? Molly Ringwald in 1989, 1988, whenever they filmed it.
It would have been 92, 93.
I thought it was 90.
No, it came out in 94.
Oh, 94. Even then, that's the tail end of her big, huge stardom and everything.
It was a few years removed from her biggest movies. Yeah. But yeah, no, so it's
definitely if we look at Jamie Lee Curtis filming a B-list role in the 80s. She was the Scream Queen. She was one of the queens of Hollywood at that time and everything. But then you put her into this role and it's well, why did we waste an A-list on that, on that character?
Yeah.
It goes back to what we were just talking about, the ones that could be an A-list character. If you had to pick a female role for The Stand that you would want to get an A-list actress, for me it would be Nadine. That's a lot to take on for a character.
That's definitely a meatier role in terms of there's a lot to deal with that. Now it depends though how you're going about it, because if you go about and cover everything that's in the book, I would say that Franny maybe is more than Nadine. If you're going to go through and deal with the stuff with Jessie, if you're going to deal with her mom, if you're going to deal with
that's true
everything else later, I think that she's definitely a big role. But you're right. Nadine's a huge role too. Some of her backstory is really good and stuff. But yeah, I think that I don't know. Yeah, that's one that comes to mind that I'm not really a huge fan, but it's still that's who I picture when I'm reading it. All of them. So that's just me. I love the series. I don't know. It defines what I read when I read. Probably because I saw it first.
I'm with Steve on this one. TV movie was okay. ABC Network and Stephen King always had a good relationship. Gary Sinise, perfect stew. I'm absolutely on board with that.
I got to refresh my thing. I didn't get a new message.
Oh, did you?
Go ahead.
He says he goes on and says Tom Cullen by Fake baked Patrick Starfish, also perfect. And I actually have a funny story about that.
Oh, it's because I have it set to. Sorry, I have it set to stop.
Oh, I
Yeah,
gotcha.
there we go. Sorry, it had been keeping up live until that last message.
Yeah, funny story about Tom Cullen there for us is that
And that is the dude that plays that pink guy in SpongeBob, right?
That's where the story goes right there, guys. Is me and Ted have never exactly been a SpongeBob. That was after our time as kids. I unfortunately have had the experience of watching it with kids, so I know who Patrick Starfish is and everything.
Unfortunately, you might have some of the listeners that like that show. So
I'm sorry if you guys like that show. I absolutely freaking hate.
What was the
SpongeBob.
reference in Infinity War? Because remember after the movie, I asked what Pokemon it was. It was a SpongeBob character.
Squidward.
Okay, because I'm not a Pokemon person either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, which Pokemon is that?
That's
Because the laugh was enough where I'm like, okay, it's something that people get.
Yeah.
And I noticed like a lot of older.
I actually pulled up a picture for you so you can understand the reference.
I noticed a lot of older people not laughing versus younger people that were, and I was just like, okay, so that tells me it's something younger. So I just went to Pokemon.
You're good, Steve. We don't worry about spelling here at Dark Tower Palaver, so don't even worry about it. But Gary Sinise is Stu.
Yeah, okay.
In my brain, that's Stu Redmond, for God's
sake.
sakes.
Okay, let me speak to that. I'm with you. So much so that for me, that even eclipses Lieutenant Dan, which I didn't think could ever be done.
Really?
I don't see. Okay.
He's Lieutenant Dan.
I was at Regal Theater.
Yeah.
Recently watching a movie, forgetting which one now. And
you see so many, so it's understandable.
Yeah, I'm blanking on which one I watched most recently though. But he has a charity for soldiers that he started after Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump. And they were doing a thing, and it was actually the day that I was there because it was Veterans Day.
So
where
past Sunday, right?
A percentage of the popcorn sold was going to go towards his foundation. And he was sitting there doing his thing. You see him like meet and greeting with veterans, wounded people, and stuff like that.
Just to clarify real fast, this wasn't in the theater. This was on the screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to be like, dude, if Gary Sinise showed up and you didn't fucking text me, I'm about to throw my water bottle at you, you asshole.
No. It was on the screen, like the stuff they play before the film.
Okay. Continue.
So they're playing that, and like, there was part of me that's like, I usually like, dude, I've called him Lieutenant Dan for longer than I've known his name. Like, he's always just been that to me. But now it's like, I know it's Gary Sinise. I know his name now. But for me, like, as I was watching this, he's an older guy now, right? He's put on 20 something years than
a little bit
from his most iconic roles. And I'm like, okay, wow, he's aged. I'm like, honest to God, I was like, oh, look, that's what Stu looks like down the road from the stand. Like, and I saw it. I was like, oh, there's Stu. Like, it wasn't, there's Lieutenant Dan. It wasn't, oh, Gary Sinise's age. I went, oh, so that's what Stu looks like 25 years after the events of the stand, right?
Huh.
And it just felt like this weird, like, checking back in with a character that in a way that I never will be able to. And I was just like, it's Stu, look, like, and that was like, so to speaking to what you're saying about, he's perfect for that role. I totally agree insofar as that, like, one of his most iconic roles as Lieutenant Dan is no longer even the primary thing I think of him anymore. And that was just like spur of the moment too. It's just like, oh, look, it's Stu. And it was just like, wait a minute, that's like, I didn't say Lieutenant Dan, like, and he's even like in a military setting with like this commercial. Right. So yeah, it was, he's definitely great. Let me see if there's anything. One other question I want to get to, because we're kind of already delving into characters. One last question I have is there an element, moment, character, or specific event that tends to come back to you in between reads, just randomly? Because that happens to me with different books. And I can't even necessarily say is an answer for me for this, but is there ever something that just kind of comes to you where you're just like, that moment of the stand comes to mind?
The flu epidemic, that first half of the book, like what you were talking about, that first half where it's not really like the supernatural side of things, but just like the flu epidemic always gets me. Again, I've said it once and I'll say it again. Whenever I get a cold.
Yeah.
Just like my brain, I have a very vivid imagination. I'm one of those people that I'm sitting outside a friend's house waiting for him to come out. And the neighbor comes out. I'm like, oh God, he's coming out to shoot me. Oh God, he's a serial killer. He's coming out to kill me. I'm way too overactive in my imagination. It gets me into trouble sometimes because sometimes it's not very appropriate with certain things. So it's definitely something that I have to deal with. It's one of those things that I've I fear is that, an epidemic, a pandemic, or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like that element always comes back to me. One that always sticks with me is anytime anyone mentions Nebraska, I always go Hemingford home, and they're like, what? And I'm like, never mind. Continue. Continue. And then I swear to God, dude, every time someone says Las Vegas, I'm like, nope, they crucify people there. I'm not going there. It's one of the reasons why I've only been there a few times in my life. I don't like it. I don't, because that's where the bad guys go.
Yeah. I don't know, for me, like every once in a while, like I'll see like a full moon and think Tom Cullen and think to myself like, oh, he'd be leaving, Vegas at this point or whatever. Things like that. Flag tends to, like I said, like even insofar as like this defining things, to me, I still have a hard time picturing Flag as anyone but Jamie Sheridan from this. Like when I'm reading Dark Tower, when I'm reading anything else he might show up in. I've told you guys before, if a character is like in that villain role of a book, a lot of times I'll assume they're Flag until it's proven to me that they're not, like, so it's just like, and then also Jamie Sheridan, whether it's watching Arrow and him being, the Arrow's dad, or playing the vice president in Homeland in the early seasons. Like,
oh, really?
I'm like, it's Flag's vice president.
Don't give him that much power. Steve said, just right now, the dog chasing folks under Flag directive. Chasing down folks under Flag's directive. I think I asked him in the chat. I said, "The kid, like the wolves, is that what you're talking about, Steve?" Clarify real fast.
Yeah,
I'm guessing that's what he means. The other things that get me is whenever I hear about an explosion, I'm not even kidding. Trash can man,
trash.
Like seeing the fires in like California and everything. Like, it's terrible, but it's just like. Trash?
Yeah, where's he at? He's involved somehow. I just found that an interesting question. I don't even know if I have that for Dark Tower necessarily on our list. Maybe I have to add that because it is just an interesting thing. Because like I don't know if that happens to everyone, but it happens to me where just every so often like small lines of dialogue from a movie or a small scene, and the same thing with books. Like those things will just randomly enter my mind for no apparent reason. And yeah, I just thought it'd be interesting to throw that out there. For is there anything stand wise that kind of comes back to you, or is I don't know.
One always sticks out for me from the miniseries. It's Randall Flagg can change into a crow.
Yeah,
it's a big part, not a huge part in the book. They actually make it a little bit bigger in the miniseries.
Yeah,
is when Lloyd gets arrested. Why is he up there?
Yeah,
what's he doing up there?
Yeah,
he shouldn't be up there.
Yeah,
I'll see a crow sitting up there. I'll just be like, Flag.
Yeah,
it's Flag. Oh God, it's Flag.
That's happened to us multiple times where we were like driving out to the desert and you'll like just see like this like either a signpost or like a power line, or a telephone line, whatever it might be, and there's just a crow just chilling up there. Yeah.
And I'm always like,
and I'm always like,
fuck away from me.
And I'm always like, my life for you. Yeah, I do think he's talking about the kid though with the wolves.
Yeah,
definitely. I tend to, what one that actually is weirdly comes to me is Mother Abigail and the Weasels.
Oh, really?
I don't know why, but just there's something about that every once in a while will just enter my brain for some reason. Mm-hmm. And it's just, it's an intense scene, but it's just one that, like, honestly, it's one of those ones that if I hear weasels, that's like the first thing that comes to mind is like 20, 30 weasels surrounding a 108-year-old woman that's trying to like bring chicken carcasses back to her place or whatever. Just I don't know, just a weird one, but yeah, that's that question. So now what I kind of want to do is just dive over to the characters and just kind of talk about them for a bit.
Yeah.
Whatever we haven't, I guess, because we have already talked about some of the characters. So we already talked about Stu. Would you say that Stu's character arc is the biggest in the series? Thinking about who he was at that gas station versus who he becomes.
No, I'd say if anything, he's second, maybe third. Larry and Harold definitely have way bigger character arcs. Stu's a good man at that gas station. Stu stays a good man.
No, but I mean in terms of like he's kind of quiet. He's a nobody. Yeah. Like he's like even in that group of people, he's not like the standout. Like if there was a show that we were just watching that was like Cheers, that was about that, he'd probably be the third or fourth biggest actor on the show. He's just like to becoming like the dude that's like kind of the central figure in Boulder.
Yeah,
right?
I'm with you on that. But for character development, like that to me that screams to like character shift. They started on a path. They Eddie, for instance,
Yeah.
Roland is fucking Roland. I mean, he hardly changes. He does make some character changes throughout the Dark Tower.
Yeah.
But when you look at character development, I mean, you're talking Eddie. Like that's the one for the quartet that really screams character development to me.
Yeah.
And that's why I say Larry or Harold, they go through drastic changes to their character. They go through drastic, life-changing choices. Stu gets traumatized. Stu gets authority thrust on him and responsibilities put on him. And there's the drama of him having to handle it. But it's like the drama of like, in like 24, because I just looked up and I saw. It's like the difference between President Palmer having a situation. Well, he's the president. I mean, he's a good guy. You know, that's the kind of thing that you expect a good guy and a responsible man to be able to handle.
Yeah.
And he does a good job. But when you take someone like Larry, who goes from like, seriously, like at the like 2 minutes before the movie starts, running away from the fact that he overdid it in a party in Malibu, to being one of the leaders of a community and willing to sacrifice himself for that community. That's a drastic change. And then like look at Harold. And then look at Harold too. 15, 16 years old, mowing the lawn, crying in his bathing suit.
Yeah.
To committing an act of assassination / what'd you call it? It's not terrorism. It's a straight up assassination.
Yeah, assassination.
It's a straight up assassination attempt of a committee who's trying to lead people after a pandemic that killed 99.9% of people.
Yeah.
That's a drastic change. And
Yeah.
So for me, when you say character development, that's where I go.
Okay, no, that's true. That's true, definitely. And yeah, I wasn't even necessarily saying because I thought Stu was that. But yeah, no, I see what you're saying totally, and I can agree. Now, when it comes to Stu, I guess like defining moments.
Yeah.
What would you say?
The escape from Stovington.
Yeah.
That is huge for him. That is the character. For me, it's the character defining moment.
Yeah.
And then everything that happens after he breaks his leg. Those are the two moments for me. His journey from Utah back to Boulder.
Okay.
Are the two things for me for Stu. What about you?
Yeah, I think that like Stovington is certainly one that comes to mind. Is probably the biggest. Because I feel like even everything that happens in Boulder, like I don't know, like I guess you're right. He doesn't change that much. He takes on a lot of responsibility and kind of becomes kind of the leader in some ways, the voice of the community, even if he's not the leader.
Yeah.
He's at least the voice of the community.
Because he hosts all of the meetings and everything like that as well.
Yeah, and he chairs the big meetings with the whole town and stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, so I think that's probably it. Now one thing I want to mention about Stu, and it kind of goes with Fran too, is I don't like the end when they're going to leave. It just doesn't seem right to me. Like, not that they have to stay part of the community, but it just seems odd to me that they're and especially to go so far. Like, okay, yeah, if you're gonna go to Salt Lake City or something like that, whatever. But like traveling most of the country's distance to go back to Maine, like I don't like it. Last time I was listening to it, it really struck me probably the hardest that it ever has before. I don't think I ever put that much thought into it, but there's just something about it that doesn't seem right. And I know they lay out the reasons, like, the town's changing, that, the cops want guns and it's getting bigger police force. Like I get all that. So I have no problem with them breaking from the community. It's just like going to Maine seems weird to me. I don't know. It's just
you hate everything about Fran.
No,
that's all it is.
No, it's because think about the danger that everyone's faced going across the country. Who's to say that danger? Who's to say everyone that's bad went to Flag? Versus who knows that there's like marauders not roaming. Who's to say that people weren't out away from Vegas when that bomb went off? And
which we know there was. They had people all the way up into Oregon and California.
Yeah, so it's like it just seems to me like that's a huge risk. And it just doesn't follow to me, I guess. I don't know how you feel about it. And maybe it's just me, but yeah, there's just something about it that just last time as I was going through, I was just like, no, this is not, I don't know what it was. And maybe it is just King, the whole thing with Maine, right? Like King and Maine. But there was just something about it that just seemed wrong to me for some reason.
And you felt this every time that you've read it, or just
No,
recently?
just the last times when it really struck me. I'm not necessarily saying I liked it every other time, but it never struck me as completely wrong until the last time I went through it. But
I definitely get the reasons. I'm with Fran and Stu on this actually. I really do get their reasoning is that after all the shit that they saw with society breaking down and everything like that, to see them rebuilding it would be a tough pill to swallow, even for me. I would not want to live on my own. You know me, I'm a very social butterfly. I like having my friends and family close. I've never lived more than like 10 miles from my parents' house. It's not because I want to be close to my parents and I want to see them on a all the time basis. A lot of it is that not necessarily that security blanket, but I want to be there if something goes wrong. I want to, if something for me or something for them, that kind of thing. That's how I am. Even now, it's really hard for me because I feel the same way about my wife's family.
yeah,
There's times where they're like, "Oh, I really need a babysitter," like her brother or something. I really need a babysitter, and there's no one else. And I'm like, I was there. I'm just video games right now. Like, send them on over. That kind of thing.
yeah,
I'm that kind of person. So I definitely am not one of those people that's going to be like, "Oh, the pandemic's over. Las Vegas is gone. Peace. I'm going to Florida."
yeah.
No,
Okay.
I'm not going to be that person. It definitely is not who I am. So I don't understand.
Yeah. Here's one other thing too is Maine doesn't make any sense. Texas would make more sense. They're not going to go back to a place that's going to have power and stuff, right? So why
Right.
in God's name when you go to Maine? Go to Texas. Yeah. It's warm, temperate. Go to Southern California for God's sake. Like, I mean, I guess the fallout, whatever. But like, it just seemed to me like maybe that's the other part that I didn't mention is like Maine makes no fucking sense. It doesn't. In that world, it does not make sense.
Especially since they cover it. They're like, "Yeah, we're leaving in July." It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Leave in April or May from Colorado.
Yeah.
And by the time you get back to Maine, if you're going to take your sweet ass time, stopping in Nebraska and stuff like that, at least you'll get back by June, maybe beginning of July. Don't leave in July, because then what are you going to do until October, November?
Yeah.
Maine gets snow sometimes in September, for God's sake.
But not even just the travel, but also just living there. It's like like
no, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there's no power.
You're not going to have enough time to get ready for winter, is what I mean.
Yeah.
Like,
whereas if you went to Texas, you don't have to worry about it.
It gets cold in Texas, sure,
but nowhere,
not
like
Maine.
not killing you cold. It doesn't. So yeah, just like maybe that was part of it too. It was just like the logic side where it was just like, why in God's name would you go there? If it happened and I was still here in Utah and you don't have the second half of the book and it's just like, I'm here, like everything breaks down, I would probably be going south. As much as I don't like hot weather, that makes the most sense than going north for me.
I have less chance of dying in hot weather than I do in cold weather.
Yeah, I'd rather be down in Phoenix and try to figure out something to with the heat during the summer and know that I'm safe in the winter rather than go up north to like Idaho or Alaska, which is one of my favorite places to dream about moving to. But it's like, if the society breaks down, no, I don't want to live in Alaska. Like that would be idiotic. So yeah, just going to Maine seemed weird to me. But I don't know that I guess we roped that into under Stu, but I think that Stu is definitely kind of the strong silent type. I think even when he becomes kind of the leader, I feel like he speaks when he needs to, but I feel like otherwise he is a lot more quiet. Like he isn't as like loud and jovial as others might be.
Isn't Fran pregnant when they leave?
No, they've had the baby. Don't they have the baby in the?
Don't they have a second one on the way?
They're talking about it.
Lucy's pregnant. Yeah. That's what it was.
Yeah, they want to stay around for Lucy's baby.
Yeah, they want to stay around for Lucy's baby. That's what it was.
Yeah. So, no, that's Stu. I love his escape, which we have on the screen here, is kind of that. I love how he toys with the doctors a little bit with like the fake coughing and stuff. Yeah, it's great. Stu is awesome. So now next up, the ageless wonder, actor wise, Nick Andros, played by Rob Lowe. Which he maybe looks 5 years older now than he did back then.
Steve makes a valid point. There's lots of lobster to eat in Maine.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's true. I'm not saying that Maine's like completely undesirable. I'm just saying that like it just makes no sense in the context of this story to me anyway. I don't know. Yeah,
they talk about it here. I just hopped over to the end of the book. When do you think we're going to get there? Near the end of July. So that gives you August and September, basically 2 months to get a house in a condition with. I would hope you would have enough food for the winter.
Yeah.
It blows my mind.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Yeah. So moving on to Nick.
Nick.
I think again, it's kind of an interesting thing because he does end up dying in the bombing.
Yep.
But like in King's book On Writing, he talks about it too. About he came to this spot where he had killed almost the entire planet, but he had too many characters. And until he had this idea to blow everything up and kill a bunch of characters, including in his mind the lead. And yeah, with that, and then like the way Mother Abigail talks about him and stuff, the way everyone looks to him, he is certainly in a lot of ways the primary leader of Boulder. Even though he can't really be the mouth of Boulder, obviously, because he's deaf and mute.
Yeah,
so.
It kind of is an interesting thing to talk about with like Stu. Is like Stu doesn't want the authority and responsibility that's given to him.
Yeah.
If Nick could talk, Stu would not have been the one leading the meeting.
No.
Nick would have been.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. Let's see. Oh, and Steve in the chat says the chubby kid from Stranger Things would be a good Harold if he's old enough by then. Yeah, I'm hoping that they're a lot closer to filming than that. Hopefully he's still too young to play that role because it sounds like they're well on their way right now in development. We're probably going to be hearing castings about it pretty soon. So yeah, it certainly isn't. I think for that kid from Stranger Things, you'd probably need another 5 or 6 years before he's to the right age, maybe. Right? Wouldn't you say, to play Harold?
Yeah, he's getting up there. I mean, he was like 12 in Stranger Things.
I'm not sure. It's tough to say.
No, I mean like character-wise, not actor-wise. Character-wise,
probably. Yeah.
Like, they're still in elementary school and everything.
Yeah.
Maybe middle school.
Yeah.
You know, and everything. And because that's the weird thing for me and you is like 12 for us here in Utah. That's elementary school still.
Yeah, we have junior high, not middle school. So you don't go move into that till 7th grade. We don't have the 6th grade in that. Like some middle schools generally have 6th grade in there.
Yeah, because a lot of places, this is what we found out is that elementary.
Oh, he's saying he is older than he looks. So I mean, maybe, but the problem is is if he looks younger though, it'd be hard to put him in that role as Harold. If he looks younger than he actually is, like, he could be 16, but if he looks 13, then it'd be tough to put him in that role.
Right.
But no, I mean, I love him as an actor. He's a great actor. He was just at Salt Lake Comic Con not too long ago. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, not a bad pick. I guess I haven't really thought too hard about like dream casting yet, because I will say and admit right up front, I don't know how well I would do because, again, all these characters to me are defined by the way they were in the original miniseries. So as much as I love Gary Oldman, and I would love to picture him as Randall Flagg, and I would love nothing more than to see him as Randall Flagg, I can't picture him as Gary Oldman when I'm reading it. I only picture Jamie Sheridan. So, like, I would have a hard time dream casting, and I'd really have to, like, kind of, like, focus my mind really hard to be like, okay, just Stu, you know, or in this case, just Nick. Like, okay, who would I see in this role if I had to completely erase, you know, Rob Lowe, you know, and see what I would come up with. But
here's a proposition for a future show. Obviously, this is going to be some ways out. We do a recap of The Stand after the new movie comes out, after it comes out on maybe like DVD and Blu-ray and everything, and which one would you take, miniseries or movie, for the character? To put up the two pictures and everything and be like, which one did it better?
Yeah.
Who wore it better?
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I'll have to maybe do some thought over the next little while. Maybe I'll post something on the website. Like at one point we talked about maybe even just posting like blog type stuff on the website. Maybe I'll post something and come up with dream casting and throw it up there and see what happens.
Steve says he only pictures McConaughey now as Flagg.
Yeah, and that's too, like, he's great, but like to me, like, even like I have a hard time picturing him too. Again, it's just so deeply ingrained with me that like I have pretty much come to know and love Flagg with Jamie Sheridan in my mind. So it's really hard for me to shift that to someone else, I guess. And it's like that with all these characters. Like I said, even like ones I'm not as big a fan of their performance. So now with Nick, one thing that comes to mind actually, and it's actually one that I don't think that it comes back to me very often, but every time I get to it, I'd say it's probably one of the scariest scenes, and it rivals the tunnel scene, is the storm cellar.
Oh, yeah,
when they're
with him and Tom during the tornado.
Yeah, during the tornado. Ugh. I'd say that's like, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Like, that is
something down there with them in the dark.
Very intense. And then, like, you know, Nick thinks I'm getting like goosebumps now. But Nick thinks it's just him until Tom starts saying that there was someone else in there and stuff. Like,
there's someone here, Nick.
Like, dude, that's something they have to get in the movie. I don't know, and you just have to be a master of, like, you know, horror directing to get it.
You know what really gets me
and get that scene and nail it to where people are just as terrified as we are reading it. You know
what gets me when I picture that scene is the fact that if I remember right, I'm trying to remember if this is what in my head, like when I visualize filming it, what I hope is on screen versus what's in the book. Because I do that a lot. Is I'll inject what I hope I see.
Yeah.
There, I really hope that all you see of that thing that's in the cellar, because they think it's Flag.
Yeah.
You know, the dark man from the dreams and everything. All I want to see is his freaking smile.
Yeah. Or what if it's just like the red eyes?
Or his boots.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they can do that well, because that comes to mind for me. And yeah, Nick goes through a lot. He grows quite a bit in the town that he is kind of left in charge of in a lot of ways, right? Like he ends up going through and doing a bunch of helping in this town to and I'm blanking on the name of the town all of a sudden. Ogunquit. Shoyo. No, I'm saying that's stuck in my head, but Shoyo, Arkansas.
Shoyo, Arkansas.
I say that's probably where you see most of his growth, and I feel like, not saying that he stops growing at that point, because I think like the next biggest growth for him is probably Tom Cullen, but like those two lead to the spot where by the time you get to Boulder, he is who he is, you know? And I feel like that's it. Like, you know, like kind of being there to hold the hand of that town as it dies, all these different people as they die, caring for the prisoners, that kind of thing. And then
the sheriff's widow.
Yeah, the sheriff's widow. And then dealing with Tom Cullen after that. Like, I feel like those things really help define him as a character and really move him from who he is to start to who he is at the end, for sure. Let's see.
There's a question for you in the chat. I forgot to say.
Yeah. Do you see Sheridan's flag in Dark Tower also? It's like a different style flag. Also, Eye of the Dragon. Hugely different. Yeah. No, for me, it still is Sheridan. Just because, like, yeah, I know he is he kind of comes at it in different ways in these different stories, but for me, I know he's like the you know, like the kind of like man with no face, right? Like he would change his look, and I think we've talked about like what that does for them for casting. That, you know, if they do future movies or series, they can change him up and it would almost work with his character. But still, for me, in my mind's eye, as I'm reading, I still picture Sheridan. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Like, it's just, that is for me. So to answer Steve's question, yeah, even though he's different in those things, that is still who I picture.
Okay, so real fast, how are we doing on time and how are we doing on characters? Because I have a tangent that may derail us, and I may want to save it for our stand part 2.
Yeah, I'm thinking that we at some point, which the rest of this year is pretty much booked up with what we're going to be doing. So part 2 of the stand will probably be coming later. But no, go ahead. We can come back to this.
I don't want to derail us right in the middle of Nick and everything. So that's why I want to preface that this may derail us a little bit. Because we know how we handle tangents on this show.
Go ahead.
So, okay. Do you guys really see Flag as different styles from the Stand and Dark Tower?
I think he portrays himself differently. Like, he holds himself differently and stuff. Like, I feel like it's like different aspects of it, almost in a way of like, if you hang out with someone and then like you see them at work, like they may be different forms of themselves. I see it like that. Like, I feel like Flag in Midworld is a far different Flag than the Flag in this.
I see them as basically the exact same character across the board. I think the King was so well writing him so well that the titter and everything like that, the smile, the unsettling smile that gets so many people unnerved, the way he handles things and like prods at people, it just screams Flag. I think the only difference for me is that in the Stand, he has like absolute power, you know, dictator, you know, crucifying people for breaking his laws and everything like that. But in like Dark Tower, for the most part, he's answering to someone, you know, Crimson King, John Farson and stuff like that. But for me, like, I picture like the scene that's coming to my mind where you're talking about like he seems like a different character, or different aspect, you know, like different personality wise, acting different. I think of like that scene in Wizard and Glass where he shows up in Magus, and who was it that goes to meet him? I can't remember. It's Jonas goes to meet him, and Jonas gets like freaked the fuck out. Like this big coffin hunter gets freaked out by Flag. And it's like, dude, that's Flag. That's the Stand Flag for me. So it's just like it's blowing my mind that people think of him differently.
No, I do. And then like, so for instance, the other thing too is like, if we're talking like scales of maturity and scales of power, I feel like the one we see in Dark Tower is like pretty much him at his height of power and ability and knowledge. I feel like the Flag in the Stand is far less knowledgeable, far less powerful. You know, I feel like if you transported the flag from the Dark Tower series into the stand, like he wipes everyone out. Like period. Like there is no challenge. He doesn't lose control of Vegas. Like he wins.
Really, you consider the Dark Tower flag to be more powerful and more together than the one in the stand?
Yeah, because I almost feel like he has a larger view on the larger universe. I almost feel like Flag in a lot of ways, because we even get a little bit of backstory on him too, right? I feel like he seems like it's freshman Flag, and the one in the Dark Tower is senior Flag. Like,
are you serious?
Yeah,
I have it flipped.
I've always thought
that the stand was his big show. That's the senior quarterback playing homecoming in the playoffs and everything.
I think here's the thing. The stand is the little pond. So he may be a smaller fish compared to the fish that he is in Dark Tower, but he's in a much smaller pond, so that smaller fish has a lot bigger like sway and a lot bigger like he definitely has more like obviously like quote unquote screen time, page time, whatever you want to call it. He's exposed more. You see a lot more of him in this, but I feel like if I had to compare them, it's like Gandalf the Gray versus Gandalf the White. I feel like the Dark Tower one is way more powerful because I feel like he's so much more. I feel like if there's a timeline for Flag in some way, I feel like all the other versions we've ever seen of him, I feel like the Dark Tower one's the latest version and he's seen the most. Let's see, the stand flag at the end of the stand is more like the Dark Tower flag. Yeah, like I feel like because now he's taken some licks and like I feel like he's more and that was Steve in the chat, by the way. Yeah, I think that I feel like so now he's learned his lessons a little bit from that. So now he's a further evolved Flag, and I feel like like by the time you get to when you get to him in the Dark Tower, even though he does end up kind of making some mistakes and stuff, I still do feel like to play on that larger field, he has to be more powerful. Maybe it's like if you want to take the sports analogy, college football versus NFL. You know, like he may be the best X player in college. When he moves to the NFL, he may only be the in like the top 10,
the backup quarterback,
or he could be. Could even be a backup, but like. It's a bigger stage, and
like what you're talking about, the biggest fish in the pond move into a bigger pond.
Yeah,
all of a sudden he's a small fry.
He's a smaller,
maybe a medium fry.
Yeah, but maybe he's a smaller fish, but maybe he had to travel through a little bit of a river to get to that bigger pond, that bigger lake. And through that he's gained a lot of experience and knowledge and cunning. And so that by the time he gets to that bigger thing, he may not be the biggest fish anymore, but he has enough in his arsenal
to survive in that pond.
And maybe even thrive and have a potential at maybe getting his way type thing. Because and what it comes down to for me is the flashback stuff. The fact that we go back so far with him in book 1 and book 4 to see him way back, and he's already a dude that's completely manipulated Gilead. He's destroying it all.
He's got him
from
by
the inside.
balls.
Yeah, he's destroying from the inside and from the out, right? Because the affiliation is obviously Flag's forces. Like to me, that seems like a far more mature Flag than we see in the Stand, I guess. Especially like some of the things he does in the Stand, the mistakes he makes, the things he overlooks. I feel like a lot of that just feels very rookie to me compared to like Dark Tower. So that's how I've always viewed it.
Steve goes on and says, Star Wars, when Kenobi says, "Kill me and I will become more powerful than you will
surmise."
Dude, it is blowing my mind right now that I've never put it together that the Stand obviously has to take place before the Dark Tower, where Flag shows up in the Dark Tower. And it seriously is like boggling my mind that the Stand Flag isn't the almighty powerful. Dude fucking levitates and, transforms and rips people apart with his bare hands and teeth and everything.
Yeah.
And it's just like, this is a dude that runs from a 6-shooter in the Dark Tower. So it just makes me always thought like he's weak. He's that guy behind the scenes pulling the strings and everything like that.
He runs from a revolver of Eld though too.
Exactly. That's where I think that I'm getting this misconception that in the Dark Tower, Flag is like this weaker character than versus the Flag that's in the Stand, because like in the Stand he's like, send 10 men against me, I'll kill all 10 of them with my bare hands.
Yeah.
Send 10 men against me with machine guns, I'll still kill them with my bare hands.
Yeah.
But in the Dark Tower, it's like, fuck, I can't let them know that I'm here or they'll kill me.
Yeah,
And it's like
I feel like it's because everyone's leveled up. I feel like because the people he's dealing with in Gilead are so far beyond, and then also there's like this magical element, right? Like it's a different realm, you know. It's moving from like the little leagues into the big leagues. Like it's different things. So like like suddenly now he's dealing with things like, you know, descendants of Arthur Eld, and he's dealing with like
the white
mysticism in the white, and like and Gan himself in some ways. Like I don't think that any of that takes place in this stand. I feel like he's kind of in his own little pond where there really isn't that much to. I mean, maybe Gan is there using Mother Abigail, right?
God,
but
right.
like I don't think that it's the same. I don't think he has the same attention paid to him. Maybe, you know, like maybe it's kind of the while the cat's away, the mice will play type thing. Whereas
Right.
like, you know, like like there is Mother Abigail with like, you know, God with his finger on her type thing. But like I don't think it's the same.
Yeah. No, it's seriously, you're absolutely right, and everything that you and Steve have said makes sense. It's just seriously blowing my mind because I've always thought the actions in the stand by the Flag just show how powerful he is. The actions of Flag in Dark Tower is like, dude's not exactly the most powerful. Like, I could name 12 characters that could kill this dude, no problem. Like, I honestly believe that if Jonas had to go, you know, toe to toe with him, he'd have a shot.
Yeah.
But looking at it, you make an absolutely good point. I mean, he's not going against some just dude with a gun. He's going against Roland Deschain.
Yeah.
Descendant of Arthur Eld.
Yeah.
You know, the last gunslinger. Yeah, it makes perfect sense that he is maybe not an A-list bad guy in terms of power like the Crimson King or Mordred, you know, guys that have that higher level. But the fact that he's able to hold his own and stay there through all of it, just shows you how truly powerful Flag really is.
Yeah, and I feel like he was more behind the scenes in Dark Tower. You know, like in terms of all in all, like he definitely pops in. He's almost like Gandalf in The Hobbit, right? Like keeps like coming in and out throughout the story. I feel like he kind of has that role in the Dark Tower series, whereas in the stand, he's there. He's, you know, because like I feel like maybe in a way it's the kind of the little fish or the fish in the pond thing, because I think what it comes down to is once he moves into this world as Randall Flagg, I don't think the Crimson King, not that he doesn't exist, but he doesn't care. This is a smaller thing that doesn't, you know, you don't have the Eld, you don't have the line of Eld, you don't have the Crimson King. Like, so suddenly this dude's able to just stretch out his legs, but at the same time, again, I see it almost as he's a lower level. Because like I said, I feel like if you take the one that is about to go towards Mordred at the end of book 7 and take that Flag and put him in this world, it's done. Like, not only would like it not matter about Captain Trips, he'd probably end up being the dictator of the world with a full world.
with or without Trips.
Yeah, exactly. With a full world. I just feel like he's so much more beyond that it almost turns into like sequels to The Omen, where Damien starts to like become this like massive leader, you know.
It's if you took like the best player in the NFL and threw him back into high school football. Now.
Yeah, it's been sure, because I feel like okay. Yeah, we're kind of hitting that peak area here. Getting closer to it anyway. Okay. Yeah, no, so for me, I've always pictured that like that's why Flag makes some mistakes and stuff, is because he just has less experience. And that's why I've been able to like kind of bring it together in my mind to be like, okay, why is Flag this in Dark Tower, but why is he making such stupid mistakes and allowing things to be done in the stand? And I think that's how I've been able to bring it, is like, this is a younger Flag, this is a less experienced Flag. That's how I've always kind of came about it.
Yeah, we says we're okay now. Thanks for that, Steve. The thing that I think I figured out just now what really was my problem with Flag from Dark Tower versus the stand is that in the stand, he has people doing his bidding.
Yeah.
Right? He's not behind the scenes pulling the strings and everything like that. Like, he's on the front lines. He's out there in Oregon. He's out there in Utah.
He's walking the highways and byways
of America. He's doing things.
Yeah.
And so for me, that screams... and so to equate this, I'm using the Marvel Cinematic Universe in my mind.
Okay, hold on. One second. What about Star Wars? Vader and Palpatine, right? It's the difference of the two characters and and the roles they play, right?
Hear me out, because there's a really good analogy here to help out with this. That, for me, with Flag in the stand, screams Loki, screams, you know, Warmonger, and guys that are on the front lines actually fighting punching Thor, punching Captain America, punching Black Panther in the face. Vulture, those kind of guys that are actually on the front lines of that. Where I see where I see Flag in the Dark Tower is I see him as Zemo, behind the scenes pulling the strings because he can't get to them. He's not on their level. That makes more sense now when I realize that level is vastly different in the Dark Tower than it is in the Stand.
Yeah.
Stu, Larry, and Nick and all those guys do not hold a candle to the type that Roland
is. This is a world that doesn't believe in anything supernatural, right? So things like the Line of Eld wouldn't exist. These people wouldn't believe in magic. So like just him even just doing small feats of magic, things that, a clown would do in Gilead, right? To entertain people would be things that would blow people's minds in the Stand. So it's just one of these things like, it's easy peasy. Like, you don't have to be a Penn and Teller level magician to go to a 9-year-old's birthday party and wow kids, like, so that's, and like I said, like Vader and Palpatine, like Vader's out there getting the shit done. He's on the front lines, whereas Palpatine's pulling the strings from his throne room. You know what I mean? Like that's the different levels of power almost, even though it doesn't fully work because, like, I guess Crimson King is technically the one that's in charge, but he is trapped away, And like I've brought it before, I feel like maybe Flag has his own ulterior motives and he's trying to do things outside of the Crimson King's purview and stuff. Right. So he's putting himself up against the greatest of all evils, right? He's kind of in a way maybe trying to undermine the devil in the Dark Tower. So that, levels wise, I always picture Dark Tower way more experienced and way more, I don't know, like powerful. So
it makes a lot more sense now, and it makes the Dark Tower, next time I read through it, it's going to be vastly different for me.
Interesting.
Which I love about this series.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
Exactly.
I love it.
So I think like with where we're at, like honestly, there's still so much more to talk about. A lot of cool characters and a lot of cool like stuff. So I think
we haven't even really got to the plot of the story, like dissecting it or anything.
So I feel like this is just kind of like, this is definitely going to be a multi-parter, and we can't promise that any like the later parts are going to come anytime before like next year. But hopefully everyone enjoys this and enjoys and I guess this is a perfect example of how I wanted it to look, is like how much of this has still been Dark Tower related, Yeah. So,
it is going to be a little bit different with other works by Stephen King because we talked about it with like Mr. Mercedes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be vastly different with the relations to Dark Tower than Stan, who
certainly
I swear it's got to be the most related.
Yeah, it's definitely up there.
Maybe outside of like Insomnia, which is like the Crimson King sent me to kill this kid, basically. So
yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that this is I'm liking personally how this is. I'd love to hear from people what you guys think, what you think of this episode and stuff. I think this is a good spot. We have Nick up on the screen currently. Do you feel like we've talked about Nick, I guess, enough almost? Or would you want to come back and restart with Nick like when we come back to this?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. Let me, I'm just going to mark something on my notes here. So next time, I guess when we come back to it, we're going to start with Larry and just kind of talk through the characters, throughout this. We've talked a little bit about Larry before, obviously. And then we'll kind of just go through and talk, through through some cool moments in the book, the plot itself, and just break it down, when we do. But, and I guess we talked a lot about, Flag too, which I guess is a good lead into the summit coming up fairly soon. But
that changes things a little bit for the summit.
This is definitely one of these things though, to where this is Flag. Even though Flag may be more powerful in Dark Tower, I still think this is ultimately his leading role.
What is it? His coup de grace?
Yeah, this is his big one. This is his time to shine. Like as a Gary Oldman fan, he's always usually plays supporting roles, and like back in the day, to find the lead, he pretty much had to go to the Dracula movie that Francis Ford Coppola did. Nowadays it's different. He's had a few other leading roles since, thank God. But it's like back 15 years ago, I'd have to go watch Dracula to get my huge dose of Gary. And I think The Stand is definitely your big dose of Randy.
Has
certainly.
He won an Oscar yet?
Yeah, he did last year for
right?
Darkest Hour.
I think I asked you that a couple weeks ago, but yeah.
Yeah, he did, thank God. And that's a great movie too.
I still need to watch it.
You do. I was actually thinking this week I was going to text you and ask if you'd watched it and lean on you to watch it, because as a history fan, I think you'll enjoy it.
There he goes again. I'll let you know when I watch it, guys, because it's going to happen.
But yeah, no, so I think that puts us kind of in a good spot, I think, to stop. Like I said, we can come back and talk about Larry. We still got Fran, Ralph, Glenn. I mean, we got almost the entire cast. The only ones we talked about is Stu and Nick and Flag, but I feel like Flag we still have plenty to talk about because we kind of almost touched him more in this tangent versus actually talking about how does he exist in this story. You know, some of the backstory stuff, some of the stuff with like how he crosses over with Nadine and, you know, like the town, like how is he running Vegas? You know, what is he doing? His cast of characters, because I don't have a lot of his characters written down. So a lot of it will come kind of through him. So, but we do have some of the characters on his side of the fence to talk about, and some really cool chapters that aren't as connected to some of these big names, which will be fun to talk about. So we'll definitely do that into next year. I guess, what do we have, a book club next time?
Yep.
And then
the summit, right?
Is it the summit after that? I guess, yeah, because December 1st will be the next time that we're recording. So we got a book club next time, coming back to drawing of the 3, and then we'll be doing the Flag Summit to close the year out, and then we'll be into 2019, which will be just fun. I think we don't really talk about the year very much when we do podcasts, but I think next time it'll be like, here we are in 2019, because it's 19, right?
Dark Tower.
So I'm hoping we get some news here soon about the Dark Tower series, because I would love to.
How great would it be if it dropped in 19?
I know, even if it's tail end of 19, if it's a year from now, it'd be awesome.
Yeah,
to see it
in the year of 19.
Yeah, indeed.
The year of the Tower.
Yeah, indeed. And even if nothing happens, it's still the year of the Tower, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it is. So, I, because of my like trying to do the other Stephen King books and stuff, I've really held off doing any kind of reread of the Dark Tower for a while. It's one of the longest I've gone without it. And I think honestly, I'll probably do 2019 and read through it, because I'm not doing Unfound Door episodes on that anyway.
Right. That's book clubs.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll probably just read it as like a extra credit type, just on the side, just to go
this will
through
be
it
your
again.
This will be your fill-in stuff for like right now, where you were talking about how you didn't want to read anything until you got past the stand.
Yeah, to kind of have that Dark Tower
you fill in the Dark Tower. In there.
Exactly. Let's see. So it looks like OG Chris just showed up here. I guess it's toward the end of the show, but it's all good. It's good to have you here even for a bit, and especially because you would have come in right as we were talking about the tail end of our Flag discussion for this episode, talking about the stand. Ended up doing a pretty heavy talk about, I guess, the relation between Flag and the Dark Tower and Flag in this in terms of like power levels and stuff. So that's definitely fun. So yeah, we'll go ahead and close up shop. We're about at our normal stopping point for time, and I just think that like any of these, I mean, especially getting into some of these other characters, if we went any further, it ended up probably being huge discussions, and I don't want to have to abridge anything because we're getting long.
And again, we haven't even got to the plot yet, or the chapters or anything.
Yeah, indeed. But what a great book. Hopefully everyone enjoys this, and if you haven't read it, read it. If not, send us emails too about it. I mean, like I said, it'll probably be next year or sometime in January before we come back to this for part 2, but we'd love for you guys to be part of that. Send your emails about the stand, and we can read those when we come back to this. First of all, if you guys want to stream, you can do that on Stitcher. If you want to subscribe to us, you can do that on iTunes. If you could rate and review us on there, we'd love that. You can find our show notes, darktowerpalaver.com. I'm really not sure if we're going to have anything for show notes for this episode, because it was pretty much just nerding out about the stand. So probably not. I guess like my
put in the places that they can buy it.
Yeah, just be an Amazon link, I guess, to like
the book. Put in the Audible link.
Yeah, no. So you guys can all find that for sure. So yeah, probably no show notes this time. If you guys want to be part of the extended content, there's a number of ways to do that. If you've been listening, you've probably heard us referencing the people in the chat. So there's one way. Peter can tell you all the ways and how exactly to engage.
Yeah, the way to do it in the chat is youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. We stream live Saturday nights, 5 Eastern, 3 Mountain Time is usually the time that we start. Every now and then we'll have a scheduling conflict where we'll move it a day or so. The other ways that you can get in touch with us, the best way to get in touch with us is email. darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. We take emails on book clubs. We take emails on roundtables. We take emails on Unfound Doors. If you want to email us and just say, hey, what's up? We're cool with that too. Anything goes when it comes to emails. We always are open for discussions, comic books, movies, books. Stephen King now is, we're starting to open the door a little bit into our Unfound Door episodes. This is a little bit of a taste for you guys here. So please let us know how it went. I mean, I know Tad's already mentioned that, and he's going to reiterate it again. let us know how you feel about stuff like this, because this is something that we're looking at expanding on is the greater King universe.
Yeah, and definitely we'll still be doing our book clubs. We'll still be doing roundtables, normal roundtables. This is just a cool way to kind of help us out, especially when roundtables start to look kind of thin. This is not replacing anything, just kind of allowing us to expand more and have a little bit more stuff to talk about, I guess.
Also letting us nerd out a little bit more.
Oh, yeah, because, I mean, we've definitely kept the reins on for a while now to keeping in Dark Tower realm, but it's definitely fun to expand it to others, especially for me with the stand. I mean, this is, like I said, singularly my favorite Stephen King book, so it's definitely one I love. I can't wait next early summer to start reading it again, because I'll be back on schedule. This year I delayed it a few times and ended up reading it kind of tail into summer into fall.
And you missed it last year.
Last year, yeah, I completely skipped it in 2017 because of like reading some other King works for the Unfound Door project. But yeah, no, I definitely will be back on my yearly read, because it's just great characters to go and revisit. And we've touched on a couple of them: Flag, Nick, and Stu, and we talked about some others, but not as in depth. But they're great characters. So,
also real fast, we have Facebook page and Twitter that you can also follow us. It's facebook.com/Dark Tower Palaver. And then the Twitter, you can follow us at Dark Tower POD. That's at Dark Tower Pod. Remember, guys, as for Tad's announcement earlier in the show, check out those social media, because he's going to be making that announcement for when Dark Palaver with Tad gets picked up on the podcast and everything.
Yep, once it gets posted on iTunes, I'll make sure you guys are all aware to get your links in case you want to jump over and listen to me nerding out on all kinds of things.
Do you want to give us a little bit of a taste, a little bit of a smidge, a little morsel to go home with? What are some things you're expecting to talk about? So I know the first show was Halloween.
Yeah.
Which is one of, if not, I'm assuming the biggest one is going to be Star Wars is your biggest fandom. But Halloween has to be top 3, right?
It's up there, yeah.
It's definitely up
horror,
there.
It's number 1 easily. But
horror.
yeah, it's one of those ones that like I can't say it predates Star Wars for me, but it's certainly close. Like I was pretty young coming into horror movies and stuff, and Halloween's always been one of my favorites. So yeah, I was just in like that. So that first episode's Halloween. I basically talk about the series a tiny bit, and then I kind of actually just delve in and actually do a commentary on the first movie, which is a lot of fun. And yeah, the second episode couldn't go much further than that without getting to Star Wars. So got Star Wars for that, and then actually the third episode is Bohemian Rhapsody. So
because you went and saw that, right? You're a big fan of music. I mean, you got a turntable here. Is that what it's called? Okay, I'm not big on the vinyl. I never have been. I've always thought it, kind of cumbersome. I've honestly don't think I've ever even heard a record played from vinyl and everything. You're big on that. You got your records here. You got some. There's a case.
Yeah,
over there,
I got
right?
cases down here. Yeah,
so you're big on music as well. I mean, I know you're a huge Iron Maiden fan.
Yeah, Iron Maiden's definitely one of the tops, but Queen is definitely one of my favorites. So it's kind of a cool episode where I'm able to kind of delve into music a little bit, but kind of through the purview of that movie. So that's kind of my first 3 episodes that I have recorded now. So, Chris says Freddie Mercury will return in Avengers 4. Too soon. That's awesome, though.
Oh, geez.
That's awesome. So yeah, so I did that for the 3rd episode. I haven't really recorded another episode past that, but dude, I have so many ideas. Like,
well,
as time goes by, like I was thinking about Band of Brothers, which I haven't revisited in a good chunk of time.
You haven't even touched Marvel yet.
Yeah, I haven't delved into Marvel yet.
Simpsons. There's so many things. That's why I was saying earlier, guys. This is what's great. Is Tad's finally going to be able to unchain himself and just let it flow with all the stuff that he's a fan of. It's great. It's great news.
Yeah, and just make sure since we talk so much about him.
God, come on.
I'll get him on here. And then what about this next one? What do you think?
Yeah. Why do you have to show me red-eyed flag? Come on.
I really only put this in here for your benefit. Just entirely. I mean, I love it too, but there was part of me that's like, I got to put it in there for Peter, and get it up on there on the screen. And
what's with the hair?
I don't know.
It's all creepy.
Oh, it's because it's when he transforms from the in the dream from the Scarecrow.
Yeah.
So that's your Flag Batman villain, I guess.
Chris says in the chat, he says, that smile.
Indeed.
Pure
indeed.
joy and happiness.
Indeed. So so that's just some things coming for the Palaver tab. But yeah, there's so many cool things that I've had ideas about. Just
over the years.
Just, I mean, even over the last couple of weeks is like,
really?
as I've been like, there's just things where I'm like, oh yeah, like Band of Brothers. I'm kind of jealous. I'm like, dude, I'd love to do an episode on Band of Brothers.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like that was a huge thing for both of us for a long time.
It was very big because it was honestly one of the first. It's the first miniseries I ever watched. Not on TV. I didn't have HBO or anything like that. But it's one of the first miniseries that I actually sat down and watched.
I think I lent it to you, right? And then your dad saw it, and then he bought it.
Yeah, my dad loved it. He ended up watching half of it with me and bought it. It's one of the few times that my mom has allowed something that violent and gratuitous on the TV, because she knew how much it means to my dad being a retired veteran like he is. So.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
So that's what's coming up on Palaver Tat. So keep your eyes open. As soon as iTunes gets gives me the all clear that it is posted, I will definitely post on our Dark Tower social media to link you guys over, and then from there I have my own social media that you guys can follow, and all the show's stuff will be over there for that show.
We'll give that out next show and probably the show after as well. Because next show is the book club, and not everyone tunes into those.
Yeah.
So we'll make sure that you guys get all that information as well, too.
Yep, indeed. So thanks, guys, for joining us, and we will stop, and as we always do, and say long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
And everyone that's in the live chat, just thank you guys for joining us. It's been a lot of fun talking through this. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed it. We definitely had a bigger group than we usually have. So great to see everyone, and thanks for being part of the show and joining us.
Yeah.
And we will see you guys next time for a book club. And to you, Chris, may you have twice the number. Long days and pleasant nights. And
thanks a lot, Steve. You were great.
Yeah, Steve.
Cody, too, yeah.
Yeah, Cody was in here. Mark started up in here. I think if he's been in here, he's been mostly silent, but he was in here earlier. I'm kind of scrolling through to see.
I missed that one.
Yeah, he was the very, maybe you entered after that, potentially.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, he popped in and said, hope you're all good. So thank you, Mark. I missed that. I guess we were just starting the show up, so I didn't miss, I saw it, but I didn't react to it, unfortunately. But thank you guys for joining us. It was a lot of fun, and I don't know. Isn't it just great to have this up on the screen as we close out?
Please take it off now.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. See you next time.
You're a monster.
Hey.